Am I the asshole for telling my cousin that she only got pregnant to trap a man, and it didn't go over well? Hey everyone, here's my tale from 7 years ago. It occurred around the time I first relocated to Vegas. I had a cousin with 7 children, and since I had just moved, I hadn't seen them since the youngest was in diapers. Now, this relative has a sister who has only 1 child. She receives food stamps and child support for just 1 child, despite the fact that she is unemployed. She's the type of person who swaps her food stamps for cash and spends it on frivolous purchases like trips to California and green herb to smoke. She only cares about people she can use. In contrast, my cousin with 7 children works her buttocks off. She's a little embarrassed that she receives government assistance because she feels responsible for raising all 7 of her children, but no matter how hard she works, she just earns enough to cover the bills. Her food stamps only cover the cost of 1 month's worth of groceries. If you haven't noticed, growing children consume a lot of food. Mind you, I was 20 years old about to turn 21, and I always had some money left over after each payday. My payments were always paid on time, and I occasionally helped my mother. We went to see the kids one day, and the 3rd youngest told me that Christmas was approaching and that he was delighted because they get to eat excellent food on Christmas. These kids live on ramen and ravioli. Hearing him say this broke my heart. Her children are generally well behaved, and they deserve a lovely Christmas. I began asking them what they wanted, from oldest to youngest. Dax wanted headphones and a new sweatshirt. Jen requested a sweater and nail polish. Darren requested a football and a cake. Junior wanted a soccer ball and cake. Zed wanted Transformers and Power Rangers. Nana wanted a My Little Pony, and Jay wanted Paw Patrol. Clearly, I have changed their names here. So, because the kids don't understand Spanish yet, I informed my cousin that I'd be taking Christmas off and that I wanted to take care of it for the kids. She seemed to want to cry. She thanked me and said she would try to repay me. I told her no, but she claimed she'd take an extra shift since she still wanted to get them something. I got paid and established a $40 limit for each child. I gave each kid 2 large presents from Walmart and used the rest of the money to get them all modest extras from the dollar store. Her children appreciate all you give them. The 2 who wanted cake got it. I even tied a bow around it and concealed it among the milk and eggs in the refrigerator. Now, I assume my cousin informed her sister since I received a call from her sister. Here's how the conversation went. She called and said, "Hey, Chris told me you're doing Christmas for her kids." I replied, "Yes, they are spending Christmas Eve at my house. Mom is cooking dinner, and we'll open presents the next morning." "Surely you have room for one more?" she asked. "Are you talking about your kid?" "Of course I am." "Okay, no issue. Drop him off on Christmas Eve night to eat and watch movies, and then pick him up the following morning." "No problem." Mind you, after buying the kids gifts and my parents, I was a little broke. The entitled cousin called me the day before Christmas Eve, so I scrimped and bought her child some dollar store toys. On Christmas Eve my mother gathered up the 7 children and brought them to the house. They were astounded at the gifts under the tree and the stockings with their names on it. The elder ones were joking about, wondering who got what. I waited for perhaps an hour or 2, but my cousin never arrived with her child. So we fed the children and began watching movies. After around 3 movies, all of the youngsters dropped out from food comas. We awoke the next morning to find that my entitled cousin had not yet responded. The children began opening their presents. Junior and Darren enjoyed some Christmas cake, which they shared with their siblings. Everything was in full flow when there was a knock on the door. I opened it, and I wasn't particularly pleased. "Why the freak are you knocking on my door?" "Oh, it's you two. Why didn't you bring your child last night?" I asked. My cousin snapped, "Watch your mouth. I became busy and couldn't make it." At this moment I rolled my eyes because I could smell a bull. "You've said worse things in front of your kid. You want to come inside?" "Sorry, we do not have time." "Can we just get his presents and meal and leave?" "His meal?" "Yeah, your mom cooked." "Yes, she cooked last night. You were busy and the kids ate everything." "You didn't save my kid a plate." "Well, you never brought him, so no." "Whatever, just give us his present." Her child seemed to want to stay and play. I felt sorry for him. I walked inside and swam through the wrapping paper to find his gifts. They were little, so I placed them in a gift bag. He opened them on my porch, and his eyes brightened. "Woo, a ninja, a wrestler, ooh, silly putty. I received a puzzle, I love it. Thank you Momo. This is what my nephews call me." I felt a little emotional and hugged him back, saying, "Merry Christmas." Meanwhile, my cousin stood there and asked, "That's it?" I gave her a glance, trying to remain calm, but my anger was mounting. "What do you mean?" I inquired. "How much did you spend on them?" she insisted. That's really none of your business, I said. She scoffed. You are selfish. You got him these cheap toys in order to buy all of that junk for Chris and her children. Allow my child to have one of their toys so that it is fair. And that was all. I couldn't keep it in anymore. Are you insane? I snapped, shutting the door and concealing her children's ears. It is Christmas. Be grateful I purchased anything at all. You only call us when you need something. You deprive your son of a wonderful time since all you care about is yourself. This is not fair to him. You waste your money on frivolous things when you have a full child to care for. You only have one child, and because you milk your baby daddy, that poor guy pays a lot of money for his son, while you spend it on your nails and marijuana. How about you act your age and take responsibility for once? She appeared shocked. Who do you think you are? She exclaimed. I'm not a lady who intentionally became pregnant in order to trap a man. A mother who does not get aid but pays taxes so that lazy people like you can feed their children. The woman who bought your child Christmas presents because I was not selfish like his mother. She appeared to want to hit me, and she probably would have if my mother hadn't come outside. My cousin felt intimidated by my mother, so she grabbed her child and went. Later, she moved to Chicago to leech off her mother. I hope her child is okay and doesn't take up on her bad habits. Late update. I spoke with my cousin who has 7 children, and she contacted their mother in Chicago. The child has grown taller, wow, genetics, and his grandmother has legal custody of him. His mother got in trouble with the authorities, as one would expect, but it wasn't because of drugs. She is serving time and has lost custody. His father still lives in Las Vegas, but he cannot afford to care for him because he is struggling to care for himself. My cousin is saving his allowance for a trip to see us, so I handed him $250 to help. Was I a jerk for calling out my cousin like that? Nope. At the very least, I ensured that the child did not hear me or took steps to minimize it. I honestly don't understand how people like her rationalize their actions. Whether she took the child out of laziness or with the intention of receiving free presents, she is still a bad parent, and it appears that social services agreed with me. However, inconveniencing a large number of other people in order to receive free food and toys that you had no intention of giving to your child is both lazy and selfish. At the very least, her child appears to be capable of outperforming his mother. Hopefully, without her influence, he will mature into a well-adjusted and moral individual who learns from her mistakes. If his father cannot afford to see him, it appears that he has a difficult situation. This reminded me of how grateful I was as a child for the cheapest bargain bin toys. Until my early teens, I was content with a modest toy from the dollar shop. It demonstrates how difficult things must be for my other cousins' children when they request sweaters, indicating a need for warm clothing rather than taking it for granted. 7 years after my husband caught me cheating with my boss and went to prison for assault, he's out. Now, I'm alone, and my kids hate me. I'm a selfish person, or so I tell myself practically every night when I hear the silence in my home. My children aren't here, my ex-husband hates me for good cause, my immediate family is fractured, and I've never stopped hating myself for what I did. My selfish conduct occurred in 2015. I had just reached 39, and I admit that I took my ex-husband for granted. My ex told me every day that I was beautiful, that he wanted to be intimate with me, that he cared for me, and that he treated me as an equal. He never regarded me as a queen or princess. I was his partner. We'd been married for 20 years by that point, high school sweethearts and each other's only, and it seemed right. My family adored him, my brother looked up to him, and my ex supported him through many difficult moments. My ex was the person people contacted when they were in difficulties, and he assisted them. He was a good guy. Over the years, I have given him 2 strong boys. At the time of this narrative, they were 18 and 16, and we had twin girls who were 13 years old. I had gained weight and felt self-conscious, but he still called me lovely. Our fights were rare and far between. We discussed everything, but when we disagreed, it was typically over sex or a lack thereof on my part, as well as the things I refused to do in bed. It wasn't that I didn't want to do things, it was just that I wasn't in the mood, which he understood. When I turned 39, my birthday celebration unveiled the new me. I had spent the entire year in the gym, doing yoga and Pilates. My efforts helped me lose 180 pounds and reach 135, which was an incredible transformation for me. I had always been a plump girl, so having a tight fit figure was a new sensation for me. My ex-husband also went to the gym with me, albeit not as frequently, but he dropped from 260 pounds to 225 and began to shape his physique. My ex-husband could not keep his hands off of me, but I was still not in the mood. He certainly made an effort. We attended dinners, danced, and went for regular walks. He always helped around the house, and I could see in his eyes how much he adored and lusted after me. After 20 years together, he still gazed at me with passion. I believe any woman would desire that, but I wasn't in the mood. At the time, I assumed I was going through early menopause because we only had sex 2, maybe 3 times a month and I was a one and done, but he desired more. No matter how hard he tried, I just wasn't into it. He suggested couple counseling, but I refused. So my selfishness comes into play. A new manager began working in my office a few days after my birthday. He was significantly younger and more attractive, and for some reason, he was interested in me. Initially, I ignored him. Then it switched from ignoring to casual chatting. He flirted, so I showed him my ring. However, after 2 months of relentless flirtation, I reciprocated, which led to me telling him about my life and finding myself thinking about him more and more. This was an emotional affair, as I now realize, but I was high at the time. My ex-husband suspected something was wrong with me. We had a furious dispute over it, which I feel I began. He moved to kiss me and I subconsciously produced a horrified expression. It wasn't directed at my ex. I was thinking about another man as my husband leaned in, and I was dissatisfied with the whole situation. At least that is what I tell myself. A week later, I asked the new boss to meet me in a cafe so we could discuss. I was about to beg him to leave me alone and that I couldn't do this, but he kissed me first, and my thoughts went blank. That marked the beginning of our 6-month affair. During that period, I did things with this man that my ex-husband had long desired. I was more enthusiastic, willing, and usually in the mood. I think it was because it was something new. During this time, my ex and I continued to have sex, albeit less regularly. I started pushing him away, nitpicking his minor habits and even criticizing him. I'm ashamed of how I handled him at the time. I only understood what I was doing when my brother came to visit and informed me that my ex had confided in him. My ex was despondent and contemplating divorce, claiming that he no longer loved me and that he was beginning to lose interest in me. That brought me out of it. So I immediately called it off, quit my job, and promised myself that I would make my husband feel loved and cherished. I was going to change this. If possible, I would be a better wife. My AP, affair partner, arrived at my residence with a package of office supplies from my desk, which I had ordered to be shipped. We spoke. He wanted to know what he had done wrong, and I told him I needed to work on my marriage. I told him to leave, but he wanted one final chance. I told him no, but he begged and pleaded, and like a fool, I gave in. We went into the guest room and started fighting. I'm not sure how long we were doing this, but when he was on top of me, I felt him violently snap back, and there was a huge crash. I sat up, and my ex looked at me. My AP was on the floor, and there was a big hole in the wall. I tried to talk to my ex, but his eyes were bloodshot. His lips trembled as tears streamed down his cheeks. I could tell he was in a lot of agony, and I felt disgusted. I witnessed my AP stand up and try to leave. My ex looked at him, and my AP told him that if he knew what was best for him, he'd back off. So my ex assaulted him. I yelled and cried for my ex to stop. Desperate, I jumped on his back, causing me to be slammed to the ground. Everything became blurry for a time. Sentences sounded muffled, but when I awoke, my ex had my AP by his side and was on the phone. All I could do was stare at my AP's injured face and the blood and teeth on the floor next to him. There was a loud bang on the door, and I saw my ex put the phone on speaker, carefully set it on the floor, drop to his knees, and place his hands on the back of his head. The door opened and the police entered and handcuffed him. Paramedics came shortly later. I quickly found that he had phoned 911 himself. At the hospital, everything went terribly wrong. My father didn't say anything to me, he just stared at me with shame. My brother was yelling at me, looking upset and questioning how I could have done that to my ex. My mother was comforting me, telling me everything will be fine, which prompted my father to yell at her. His family was infuriated. His sisters threatened me, and his parents seemed to wish to put me to an early grave. I approached my children, but they refused to speak with me. My sons wouldn't even look at me. My AP was severely damaged and required reconstructive surgery on his face. My ex had nearly crushed it. At the hospital, a woman entered my room and immediately attacked me. My brother grabbed her away from me and it turned out she was my AP's wife. I didn't realize he was married. He never wore a ring and never said anything. It made me feel even worse. Prior to the trial, my boys stayed with their grandparents on my husband's side, while my girls refused to speak with me. My ex did not want to see me either. I attempted to visit him at the county jail, but was forbidden. My brother made sure my ex went to the correctional facility where he worked so he could monitor him. When I requested my brother to deliver a message for me, he told me to go to hell. During the trial, I saw my ex for the first time in months. He gazed at me with rage, and it hurt more than I could have imagined. He had always looked at me with love, even while we were fighting. He always looked at me with love, but throughout the trial, it was hatred. I had to excuse myself for crying in the restroom. As the days passed, I was compelled to recount my affair in full for everyone to hear. When I informed them how long it had lasted, my ex looked devastated, and my father stood up and exited the courtroom. During my ex's testimony, I discovered that he had returned home to surprise me with lunch and a weekend trip for 2 to the Catskills. He had planned a romantic retreat, but as we walked in, he responded. He claimed that when the AP told him to step aside, he snapped and pummeled him, stopping only after he flung me off his back. He instantly called 911, and we heard the recording in court. Hearing the misery in his voice and sobbing as he did everything the operator told him to do was heartbreaking. The AP couldn't speak verbally and was extremely drugged, so they utilized photographs of him, which made me sick because I was to blame for everything. My ex broke his eye socket, cheekbones and jaw. They claimed there were bone fragments that were too small to piece together. My ex was charged with a third-degree felony and sentenced to 7 years in prison, causing my kids to yell and protest, as well as my girls and his family to let out a howl that still haunts me today. The first 3 months were terrible. My AP's soon-to-be ex-wife sued me for affection-based alienation. My ex has filed for divorce. My eldest son has moved out. My other kid remained in his room, and my twins were rebelling fiercely. My ex-sisters-in-law attacked me in the middle of Price Chopper. When I tried to apologize to his mother, she spat in my face. My father and brother refused to speak with me. Eventually, I needed to locate a new job. There was no money coming in, and I nearly depleted my funds, but I was essentially blacklisted in my sector. It was negative publicity for the accounting firm, so I started working in retail and became a seasonal H&R block adjuster during the tax season. I almost lost my house. My ex refused to let me visit him, and each letter I sent was returned. Crying in the shower became practically a daily habit. My parents almost split up because my mother was continually defending me. My brother refused to accept me, and my pals, whom I'd known since elementary school, were divided. I soon began to have ideas of terminating things, of packing my goods and going. The guilt was so heavy. I eventually saw a therapist, who admonished me for being too familiar with my ex. I no longer considered him a spouse. Instead, I saw him as a friend with perks, and I treated him accordingly. I did, and she was right. I became too comfortable with him. I regarded him as a comrade, but he saw me as his wife, the mother of his children, the woman he adored and wanted. I took him for granted. Almost a year passed, and my children remained silent. When I served dinner, they would take their meal and disappear to their rooms, not even looking at me. I had a few meltdowns, imploring them to say anything to me, but nothing happened. My brother was married and I was not invited, but my children were. I continued to try to visit my ex, hoping that he had put me on the visitor list, but I was always turned down. My letters were still getting returned. It left me terribly depressed, and I felt I deserved it. Then, unexpectedly, my brother showed up. I was both surprised and pleased to see him, as it was the first time he had visited my house since the trial. He just came to reprimand me, informing me that my ex was in the hospital after being stabbed. An inmate attempted to sexually abuse him in his cell, which resulted in my ex being stabbed in the stomach and the inmate's spine breaking. My brother yelled at me, "You did this?" before returning to his truck. I grieved for days thereafter because he was correct. I did this. I attempted to visit my ex in the infirmary, but was forbidden. For 4 more years, I attempted to communicate with him and continued to write letters, but they were returned. Fortunately, our children visited their father frequently, which is how I heard he had been placed in protective custody by my brother after the attack. My eldest son graduated from the same college as my ex and majored in the same field. He only called his siblings. He never wanted to talk to me. He never comes to our place for the holidays, only to his grandparents. My other son followed suit, attending the same institution and refusing to call me. My twins were difficult to deal with, but they went to see their father once a week, which helped them feel better. When they became too disobedient, their uncle would punish them, but my brother and I continued to communicate sparingly. I tried to visit his wife after they had their first child, but I was ordered to leave. My mother kept me updated on their life, but my father still refused to acknowledge me. Then, at the start of May this year, my children were joyful, and my sons returned home. I had no idea why and it didn't matter. They were home. For 4 months my children were present and I tried everything I could to express my regret, but I was mostly ignored. Still, they were talking to me, and it made me very glad to have a conversation with them and learn about their life. My eldest had been dating a woman for over a year, my second-born was on a college track team, and my girls started talking to me again. I hated myself even more for what I had done to them. It was wonderful to see them smiling, joking, and eating supper together again. At the end of August, I was preparing for the twins' first day of senior year, which also coincided with their 18th birthday. I conveyed my enthusiasm for their birthday party and told them what I planned to accomplish. My girls immediately asked if we could reschedule. This confused me because I believed we were improving. When I inquired why, one of them explained, "Because Dad is throwing us a party, and I don't want you near him." That comment stunned me. I asked when their father was released and they claimed he was let out at the end of April for good behavior. I cried because he was gone, and it shattered me even more. They were more present because he was gone. They felt better and more cheery now that their father was back in their lives. It wasn't because we were beginning to recover, they had him back. When I questioned where he was staying, they told me he was with my brother. I tried calling. I needed to speak with him, but he refused. I attempted going over, holding all the letters that had been returned throughout the years, and I caught a glimpse of him through the crack in the door. I called his name, but my brother told me to leave. I handed him the letters and departed. When I reached the driveway, I heard his voice. When I turned around, he was walking toward me. I immediately started crying and rushed to hug him, but he returned my letters. "You forgot this," he coldly told me. I cried as he walked away. I begged and pleaded for him to talk to me, but he simply walked back into the home. My children stood outside the entrance, staring at me, with no love in their eyes. At that point, I knew my children were simply tolerating me. However, I still want to improve it. I'd like to tell them how selfish I was. I want to tell him how much I miss him and how sorry I am for destroying what we had. So I'm still trying to go through my daily existence. My mother informed me that my AP's ex-wife began seeing my ex 2 years ago and has been returning to see him. I don't really care, all I want is for him to forgive me. I want him to speak to me. I want him to be with me. I want him to look at me like he used to. I want my kids to be with us. I really want my family back, but I know I do not deserve it. Even if we miraculously reunite, it will never be the same. I was selfish and I wish I could take it back. My son's response. This is a response to my mother's post entitled "My Selfishness Ruined My Family." I'm a frequent Reddit user, therefore I'm using a throwaway since I don't want anyone in my social circle to know this is me. I try to keep my past a secret. My college buddies are unaware that my father is in prison, and I don't want to inform them. So, as I strolled around campus, I overheard others talking about and sharing this post, which brought back a lot of emotions I'd been working to overcome. I looked it up and found enough evidence to conclude it was about my family, which enraged me. I reached out to my mother and, as usual, tears flowed. I yelled at her. When I went to visit my father and told him what I did, he yelled at me as well, but he is a wonderful man. He just yelled at me for cussing. He always tells me that even if I don't love my mother, I should respect her. But it is difficult to appreciate someone like her. My father has always battled. He would instill in us the importance of being grateful for growing up in a community where we would not be attacked for obtaining excellent marks or reading books. He informed us that where he grew up, children were bullied for seeking white things, such as attending college. He described how difficult it was for him in the South Bronx. My aunts informed us that when he was 13, he joined a gang so that he could be left alone at school. When he was 15, his father died of cancer, and my father had to be a surrogate parent to his 2 sisters due to a lack of life insurance. He worked and did anything he could to help pay the rent and put food on the table, all while still attending school. My father felt it was lucky that his mother remarried a wonderful man and relocated to upstate New York for a better lifestyle. My uncle informed me that when they first met my father, they thought he was peculiar. It was the 1990s, and when my father strolled into school wearing baggy trousers and a Puerto Rican flag shirt, they decided to tease him. My uncle said they weren't expecting my father to fight back, but he did. He kicked their asses. Instead of walking away, my father helped him up and offered if he wanted to skip school, share a 40 and talk things over. My uncle remarked that when my father did that, he knew they'd be buddies, and they soon started hanging out. That's when my father introduced him to my mother, and they hit it off. They attended the same college and got married by the end of their first year. Growing up, my parents were always in a romantic relationship. They were always holding hands and kissing, which was quite humiliating. Even at the beginning of my senior year, when everything went wrong, my father treated my mother as if she were a teenager. He loved and appreciated her. I can honestly tell that he never put her on a pedestal. He would lecture me that a woman will not respect a man who puts her on a pedestal. When I questioned why, he responded, "Because she'll always be looking down on you." My father informed me that both his father and stepfather shared the same philosophy. Treat your wife as an equal. She is your greatest friend and confidant, just as you are hers. My father had his idiosyncrasies. He was a large guy who was always joking, 5'11", 260 pounds, and despite his weight, he was highly active. I used to enjoy it when he sang to my mother. We all did. He'd serenade her, buy her flowers, and sign the card, "Because it's Thursday and I was thinking about you." He occasionally wrote her love letters and defended her honor when she was treated rudely or disrespectfully. He frequently complimented her on her beauty. My father demonstrated to the daughters the type of man they should have in their lives. My father was always there for my uncle, even when everyone else believed he was a lost cause. My father never gave up on him, and as my grandfather once stated, he knocked the stupid out of him and left behind the man he was supposed to be. That sentence has always made me laugh. My father showed me how a guy, a friend, and a husband should act. Prior to her affair, my mother had always adored my father. He was constantly supportive and encouraging. He was her one-man pep rally when she was feeling low, and she was his. They had the marriage that we all wanted. Then my mother messed it up. I recall those months when she spoke to my father as if he were beneath her. He pushed back but controlled himself. Even though my father was a college graduate and a successful financial consultant, he could go from zero to ghetto in 5 seconds. Grandma described him as being similar to his father. Nice, respectable, and helpful, but willing to cut your neck out with his bare hands. My father tried everything. Buying her flowers, taking her out to dinner and dancing, but she was in her own little world and mistreated him. We all witnessed it. It had a significant impact on my brother and twin sisters, but my father smiled and assured us that everything will work out. He would add that Mom was probably stressed out at work and bringing it home. I believed it, especially after she quit her job. I honestly believed it was her employment that was the issue. Then my father was arrested. Mom, do you know how embarrassed we felt when the entire school was discussing what happened? My father got detained because my mother couldn't close her legs. I couldn't bear looking at you, so I went to stay at Grandma's place. The sight of you repulsed me. When I visited Dad, he couldn't bear to look at me. He was embarrassed. He told me he had failed as a husband and a guy. I told him he didn't, but he said he did since a man would have considered the repercussions of his actions before doing anything so idiotic. He said he failed as a husband because his wife had cheated on him with another man. I implored him to please look at me, but he refused. Then you had the nerve to seek our forgiveness, and for the first time in my life, I wanted to physically harm you. We were all hurting, and you asked for forgiveness. Sitting in that trial and listening to that 911 call was the worst 25 minutes of my life. 25 minutes of listening to my father, who would have murdered and died for you, crying and imploring the operator for assistance, telling the woman that he thought he had killed someone, and again stating, "The love of my life cheated on me." It harmed us more than anything. I understand you attempted to act as a character witness for Dad. We all told you not to do it, but you did anyway. Why? Did you want to show us that you still loved him? Tell the court that he is a good man. Because, in my opinion, the cross-examination in which you informed everyone how long you had been with that son of a bitch was the reason we lost him and sent him to jail. I believe if we had an actual lawyer rather than an appointed one, he would have walked. As a result, I experienced anger issues. My brother became a secret alcoholic. One of the twins was suicidal, and you were unaware. All you wanted was to attempt to work things out with Dad, leaving me to support my siblings. I loathed you. In certain ways, I still do. When I got to college, I had no desire to associate with you. Like my father, I had to be a surrogate parent to my siblings. I was working full-time, attending college, and giving you money to help pay the bills. I'm not sure why you made it appear like you were doing it alone. Mom, I know it was difficult, I know you were depressed, but you got aid with your finances and Grandma defended you. But Mom only did it because everyone was against you, or so the twins believe. When Dad was stabbed, I nearly had a mental breakdown. I'd just seen him that day. I was making fun of how muscular he had become, and we had a nice chuckle about what Dad dubbed the prison body plan. He made it sound like a funny commercial. I was almost back to school when I received the phone call. I almost crashed the car because my brain shut down. It was difficult for everybody. I didn't tell anyone, but I sat outside the scumbag's flat. I wanted to beat him up so severely, but when I saw him walking with that cane, I remembered Dad's words and drove away. As the years passed, Grandma died, followed by Grandpa a few days later from broken heart syndrome, and Dad was unable to attend the burial. Did you know that both of his sisters married in the waiting room so he could give them away? The harm you've caused to all of us is immense. It didn't help that you continued asking us for forgiveness and another chance. You never gave us room to understand or heal. You just kept asking, and all I saw was your desire to make yourself feel better. You did not give a damn. You did not try. You merely gave us room and pretended that we were expected to act normally again. Yes, you tried later, but not when it was most crucial. When Dad came out, he told us to start talking to you. He stated you were a good mother to us and that we should treat you with respect, so we did. It made you happy for a while. I remembered what it was like to not despise you. Dad struggled to find work at first, but one of his old clients eventually hired him. I did not anticipate the twins to spring that bomb on you. Dad didn't want you to know he was gone, so when you appeared, it disturbed him. He threw up after speaking with you. He stated the sight of you made him nauseous. Regarding your statement in your post regarding your ex-wife coming to see Dad, she has been seeing him weekly for over 3 years, and they have spent time together since he was released. So please, don't build a castle in the sky about the two of you getting back together. Call me if you want to discuss this. Call me if you want to fix things with your children. What you did last week, posting what is perhaps the worst time of our lives, is sheer selfishness, as your title implies. I told Dad about it, but he didn't care. He claimed you are only the mother of his children. Entitled Sil demanded I gift her a baby for her 30th birthday. So I exposed her ridiculousness and immaturity to everyone on social media. I'm not sure if anyone can relate to my dilemma or has even heard of it. It feels strange to even write this. It's about my Mill and Sil, who are pampered brats. Sil is 29 and a single woman. Well, that's not the issue. The issue is that she is an entitled woman who will not accept no as an answer. I am 37 years old and have been married to my 40-year-old husband for 12 years. We have 2 children, a 9-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl. Despite our blissful marriage, touch wood, my pain in the neck is my overly theatrical Mill and my overly spoiled Sil. Before I tell you more about my position, let me paint a picture of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. They are social butterflies, similar to upper-class rich ladies in soap operas who spend their days at salons and massage parlors, and their evenings at bars chatting about other useless women. They exist in their own fantasy universe. They do not work. All they do is shop and chat. My FIL is busy generating money, while these women are busy spending it. FIL is essentially a non-existent part of the family, or rather a cash cow. There's a rumor that FIL has a mistress, and MIL is aware of it, so they have an unspoken agreement. He fulfills all of their demands without question, in exchange for having a mistress. I am not sure how true it is, but given Phil's status in the family, it appears likely. Otherwise, no sensible man would be silent about Mill and Sil's foolishness. Now, back to my sad existence. Last week, Mill called and invited me out to lunch, on a Wednesday afternoon. I wanted to say no, but she hadn't requested to meet with me in a long time. So I suggested an alternate schedule. I suggested that we meet for dinner in the evening, but they are busy women at night, spending time with friends at the gaming parlor. So we decided to meet on Saturday afternoon. I arrived in my usual attire, whereas she wore a completely shimmering black dress. What a great pick for an afternoon lunch. She critiqued my fashion sense the moment she saw me. After the light talk, she inquired about what we intended to give my Sil for her 30th birthday. I was perplexed because her 29th birthday was just a few months ago. I mentioned her next birthday is around 10 months away. She laughed and continued. That's why we need to plan ahead of time. Remember what happened last time? She was dissatisfied with the gifts you gave her, and her birthday was spoiled. I swallowed hard and said, yeah, of course, we spoiled her birthday because we gave her a normal $250 dress and not a premium Zara one with a matching sapphire necklace. She went on to elaborate. To avoid upsetting her this time, I have thought of the perfect gift which you guys should give her. So what was that? A baby. That's right, she wanted me to make a baby and give it to her entitled brat of a daughter. I was appalled. How could anyone believe that someone would ask for a baby as a gift? I could not understand what she was saying. I had to ask her several times if I had heard it correctly. She responded, yes, I want you to have a baby and give it to Stacy, SIL, as her 30th birthday present. I flipped out and said, why do you think I would do that? She cried. To compensate for your inadequate present this time. You wrecked her 29th birthday, and now you owe her this. I stood up and stated, I don't owe anyone anything. I'm not a broodmare who would breed a child and give it to her. I stormed out of the restaurant. On the way home, I stopped to pick up my son from his friend's house. When I got home, my husband questioned what had happened between me and Mil. I asked him what he'd been told. My husband is aware of Mil and Sil's tantrums, so he does not take them seriously. He explained, Mil called and said she suggested a present for Stacy's birthday, which you refused, and now she's mad at you. I responded, yes, she wanted your child to be given as a present to your sister. Do you want that? For a brief while, he assumed I was joking and making everything up. He was laughing and rolling on the floor as I told him the full story. Then alarmed, he asked, what is she even smoking? I made it obvious to him that I would not accept her demands. My husband reassured me, we are not having any more children, and we are definitely not giving one to Stacy. The following day was Sunday. We were both at home, relaxing on the couch and enjoying our day off, when Mil arrived at our house. I excused myself and went to my room, explaining that I was exhausted and needed to rest. Mil stopped me and said she came here to apologize for the previous day and begged me to hear her out. I was relieved that she had finally come to her senses. She apologized for not providing enough context in her request. She went on to explain, you know, Stacy is turning 30 next year and has been unmarried for a long time. It is driving her insane. She requires a distraction in life, and having a baby would be an excellent way to keep her happy. First and foremost, a newborn is a fully fledged human being, not cotton candy, brought in to keep children happy. If the spoilt brat requires distractions or a purpose in life, why doesn't she find a job? But no, the princess does not work. She doesn't move a finger about the house. By the way, she still lives with my in-laws because she has no income. She avoids home duties because her nails would get chipped. If you meet her, you'll notice that her brain hasn't developed since her 14th birthday. Her room's paint is still pink, and she has a large collection of pink outfits. She knows nothing about the world around her. She will be unfamiliar with the capital city or the country's president. All she knows is that a large sum of money suddenly arrives on her card, which she recklessly spends. I responded, if Stacy is so keen on having a baby, why doesn't she adopt one? Mil laughed and said, don't be lazy. It's been a while since you were pregnant, so get the equipment back to work. Adopted newborns pose a significant risk. Who knows what diseases run in their family? It's safe with you folks. Can't you do this for your SIL? I looked at my spouse as if to plead, would you please say something? He chuckled and called Mil's suggestion stupid. He stated that I had a lot of motherly responsibilities as well as a career to manage, and that I couldn't have another baby in the thick of it all. He also commented on how strange it would be if her brother was the father of her child. My mother-in-law simply replied, why not? Maria's sister-in-law was a surrogate for her daughter, so what's the big deal if your wife does the same for Stacy? I was like, wait a minute, that was surrogacy. Maria's sister-in-law carried Maria's daughter's child because she was unable to conceive owing to medical reasons. Here, things are not the same. If Stacy had a medical concern, we might have offered to help her carry the baby. The situation here is different. You're asking us to make a baby as if we were a machine. My partner had advised, Stacy should find a guy, settle down with him, and have her own family rather than complicating the situation here. Mil began sobbing and lamented, my little girl has tried so many times to find a man, but you know how awful men are these days. She pointed at me and said, you're a lucky woman to have my son, but sweetheart, not everyone is as fortunate as you. Stacy can't be with just any regular man. You know she has great expectations. The man should treat her like we do. I responded, yeah, of course, the last man Stacy dumped was because he didn't buy her an overly expensive Gucci bag. Mil attempted to justify her pampered princess, but I jumped up and stated, I'm nauseated from this discussion and need to relax. Once more, we will not have a child to give CL as a birthday present. After a time, my spouse entered the bedroom. He cuddled me and attempted to lighten my melancholy. I asked him what he had told his mother. He told me that he had made it plain that we would not have any more children and that they should quit harassing us. He claimed Mil stormed out of the house in rage. Can you imagine how ridiculous this situation is? I want to bang my head against a wall, or bang theirs to make them see sense. Update 1. Hello everyone, and thank you for connecting with my post. Some of the comments were just amusing. You're correct in stating that Stacy is psychologically something. I feel the same way. Both Stacy and Mil need to have their heads checked. Perhaps they were buried under pounds of makeup, lol. If there had been any other regular person, they would have backed off after the previous talk. But now we're dealing with two maniacs. Until recently, It was just MIL, but Stacy has also gotten involved. I tell you, she is 100 times more difficult to talk to since she does not grasp logic. As I said in my previous report, Miel wrecked my Sunday with her baby-making pitch. A week later, on the following Sunday, bam! She appears again with her adorable doll. They seem to have promised to destroy my day off. Stacy entered wearing a skirt and a comfortable blouse. This was the first time I had seen her without her very tiny clothes, and her hair and nails were flawless. Mill pointed and asked, "Do you see? Stacy has already begun dressing like a mama." So this was the cause for her new fashion sense. Do they truly believe that changing your clothes will make you a mommy? Change your clothes and you're ready to be a mother. Stacy smirked at me and replied, "I'm in. Whatever I do." Then she went to hug her older brother, as if she hadn't seen him in a long time. Remember, I said she acts like a 14-year-old sweetie pie. She cried, as if we were all standing far apart. "When is the good news coming?" My husband appeared foolish and asked, "What's the good news?" She smirked and added, "I know you want to surprise me with your kid for my 30th birthday, but Mom is a spoiler. I now know what your plan is. I'm overjoyed to be the mother of a gorgeous little girl. I have already started buying for her." My husband interrupted her mid-sentence, and I'm glad he did because I was going to slap her skull. He said, "That is not true, we're not having a baby, much less giving one as a present." For a long time, she assumed he was merely attempting to mask the surprise. How delusional can you be? When she discovered she wasn't getting a kid as a gift, she screamed at me, "Why not? You have always been harsh to me, this is your time to set things right. Come on, get a nice tiny baby doll for me." I answered, "Stacy, we don't run a baby supply company where you can purchase a gorgeous baby girl and receive one. Do you even know how babies are made?" She relaxed and confessed, "You know, I've always wanted a baby girl. I have so much love in me that I want to shower it on my baby. You're all depriving me of that. That baby will be really lucky to have me as her mother. I will raise her to be a confident and accomplished woman. I am confident that you will not be disappointed." You see, that is why I said you couldn't reason with her. This is mindless. First and foremost, do you believe she is in the appropriate mind to have a baby? She doesn't even realize that I have no control over my baby's gender. You don't get to choose as you would with a lipstick palette. Second, this witch has never carried a baby in her arms. When my children were babies, she used to chase them away afraid they might spit and stain her hair and clothes. Even now she won't let my daughter near her because she's terrified she'll damage her nails or hair. Can anyone envision this mother changing a diaper or swaddling a baby in the middle of the night? Furthermore, I cannot go through a torturous 9 months of pregnancy, then experience the agonizing pain of birth, only to hand over my child to this spoiled princess and watch her transform the baby into a miniature version of herself. Stacy was still rambling on about how she'd be an excellent mother, but I had lost myself in the sentiments I'd expressed above. Suddenly, I stood up and said, "Look, Stacy. I know you're going to hate me for this. You already hate me. So it doesn't matter. I am not going to have a baby for you. Do you understand it, or should I write it down for you? Because it appears that you and your mother have lost both your hearing and your mind." My husband motioned for me to calm down, but I had lost my mind with their madness. I told them I didn't want to talk about it any further, and if they kept bothering me, I'd block them from my residence. I went into my room and closed the door. I'm not sure if I overstepped my boundaries, but look at them. I cannot put into words how toxic they are. My husband tried to indicate that I was being too outspoken, but I was so upset with everyone that he didn't dare say anything else. He just informed me that his mother and sister had called him a simp and then departed. I don't care what people say, he has to quit being a nice guy to everyone. I was expecting another showdown this Sunday, but it's been quiet so far, and I hope it continues. I just want this inconvenience to cease. Update 2. Oh no, how could I have thought things would end so peacefully? Following the explosion, the next 2 weeks were quiet and tranquil. I felt so at ease without MIL showing up at our door. But God, it wasn't silent at all. There was a flurry of activity going on online that I was completely unaware of. Stacy had been defaming me on social media, alleging that I was taking away her chance to become a mother. She describes herself as a beauty guru and posts makeup tutorials. She has a respectable following on her account. I'm not extremely active on social media because I have a life outside of the screen, with 2 children and a real job. Anyway, Stacy said that her brother was game to have a baby for her, but I denied it. She stated that she has always wanted to be a mother, but because she is unmarried, she has had no luck with adoption. Such a lie. They never even attempted to adopt, and if they had, I'm sure she would have failed the adoption interview. Stacy said a lot of things to put me in a negative light. She said I was denying her a kid because she was unmarried and I held conservative, old-fashioned attitudes. I wanted to say that I was denying her the kid because she was stupid. I had no idea about her hatred campaign until my husband's aunt called and asked why I was doing this to Stacy. That was when I read everything. It was amusing how her foolish friends and relatives made me out to be the villain. Even if what she said is accurate, I have the right to say no. It is my body, and I may refuse. My husband encouraged me to ignore it, that it will pass like a season. I originally ignored it, but how can you not read public comments made against you? We are not that thick-skinned. I understood Stacy saw my quiet as weakness and was trash-talking me even more. My buddies and I devised a strategy to make Stacy pay for her actions. I called her and said, "I'm very concerned about the web campaign you're waging against me. The negativity is destroying my reputation. So I'm considering having a child for you." Yeah, I said it to please her ego. My reputation is ruined. I don't care what she or her foolish followers think of me, but she deserved to be put in her proper place. She's been a pain in my side for a long time, and it's finally time to deal with her. I responded, "Stacy, why don't you come over, and we can discuss a few things before we proceed." She was ecstatic, believing she had defeated me. When she came to my place, I replied, "Since I've agreed to your demands, why don't we go live and tell everyone you're having a baby soon? It would help to clear up any poor reviews, and you'd get a nice viewing time." She agreed right away because she enjoys social networking. We went live and I said, "I have agreed to have a baby for Stacy, so let's take some questions for the future mom." Stacy was so pleased with her victory that she had no idea what she was heading into. I responded, "So Stacy, what plans do you have for the baby?" She giggled and exclaimed, "Oh, I'm so delighted to be a mother to a baby girl. I had already started buying for her. I'm going to make her look like a celebrity from the moment she's born. I will never leave her without makeup. She will always have to appear perfect and acceptable." I didn't explicitly state that no one could guarantee she'd have a baby girl, but I let the audience educate her on the subject. Her response had already outraged many people and the video was filled with harsh comments and trolls. Stacy was so focused on expressing herself that she missed everything else. I replied, "That's lovely, Stacy, but what about when the baby is fussy and crying? How are you going to handle that?" She responded, "The girls in our family do not cry, do they? I mean, I have never seen your daughter weep. She's always well dressed and calm." Without making her feel silly, I said, "That's because you've only seen her for a short time. Every baby cries. Every tidy, well-dressed infant is the result of many hours of hard effort by the mother." Her answer was, "Then you can take care of the crying, and when she's calm, I'll dress her up in cute frilly dresses and matching necklaces and tiaras, and I'll put makeup on her." I couldn't stop giggling and told Stacy, "Babies cry all day and night. Are you suggesting you'll bring her to me every time she cries and then take her back after she's finished?" She exclaimed, "Yes, that's correct." "Why not?" I could no longer pretend and let out an evil laugh. She responded, "Are you trying to scare me off? How difficult could it be? You did it and I can do it too. I am so much better than you. I have more followers and a better fashion sense than you." She abruptly ended the live video while ranting. She was angry at me for grilling her on live camera, but she had no idea how much damage it had done to her. She stated, "We're game for the baby." As she walked away, I smiled calmly. My friend taped the entire live session. I wrote a lengthy essay detailing how Stacy and her mother had been pressuring me to have a child and give it to her as a birthday present. I methodically underlined all of the red flags that indicated why Stacy should not be trusted with a child. Her responses during the live stream were enough to let folks realize what an airheaded woman she is. I stated all of the additional things regarding Stacy that were not included in her responses. I tagged her in the post and shared it after midnight, thinking the princess would be sleeping. She'd wake up the next day and by the time she untagged herself, thousands of people would have seen the message. As expected, my post went viral, owing to Stacy's followers. Tagging her in the post allowed her fans to troll her extensively, with comments such as, "How could someone with such a low IQ even exist on this planet?" A single comment said, "Forget about being a mother. This woman shouldn't be left alone on the streets." Following this internet argument, my mother-in-law called me. Before she could say anything, I told her, "Before you say anything, please know that you are being recorded and I will not hesitate to post it publicly." My God, she hung up and did not call back. I didn't hear from the pampered princess again because I warned Emil that I was going to record all of their calls and conversations, as well as any attempts to make trouble at my place. It was quite satisfying to put them in their place. My husband and I are still giggling while reading the haters' comments on Stacy's video. It's just hilarious. Mom chose my step-siblings over me and demanded I share my deceased dad's college fund. Now I'm fighting for my independence and future. Before I get into what happened, here's some backstory. I'm a 17-year-old girl who lives with my mother, 43F, stepfather, and 2 stepsisters. I have a stepbrother, Jackson, who is a year older than me, and a stepsister, Emma, who is 2 years younger. We all attend the same high school, but we have no mutual acquaintances and have never been close. My mother and their father married after nearly 5 years of dating. The wedding occurred 3 years ago, but our families had been living together for 6 years, so the wedding was really a formality. My father went away when I was quite young, so I never got to spend much time with him. I scarcely remember him because I was so young when Dad died. My parents were never married and my father's family disapproved of my mother since she was a party girl with a bad reputation in their area. So they lived together for a brief period but didn't marry because his parents would have undoubtedly kicked him out. He was diagnosed with leukemia in its late stages at the age of 27, and it was too late to intervene. Fortunately, Dad had time to organize his affairs, and he was able to establish an education fund for me, so I wouldn't have to worry about the future, and my mother wouldn't have to force herself to work hard after his death. I've known about it since his lawyer informed me when I was very little. The lawyer was in charge of the money flow, but after I turned 18, I would have complete control over the fund. For a long time after my father died, it was just me and my mother, and I grew accustomed to it. Then, when I was about 8 years old, my stepfather entered the picture, and after a while of dating, we moved in together. My mother moved out of the town where we used to reside because she found it too traumatic to dwell where she and my father met. I've never met my paternal grandparents because they were never interested in meeting me. We periodically visit my mother's parents, and they are kind enough, but my mother's family is not very close. When I moved in with my stepfather and his children, I had high hopes that I'd finally have a large family. When I was younger, I had a lot of hopes, but unfortunately, my new family did not meet them. I don't blame them, but it was quite disappointing for me. When I was younger, it wasn't that they didn't make me feel welcome or treated me poorly, but there was something strange about everyone's energy. We all lived together, but we never felt like a family, and I never connected with my stepfather or his children. We lived in the same house, but they never tried to make me feel welcome or get to know me. I tried several times, but they did not appear enthused, so I gave up after a few months. I understood that we were more like glorified roommates than true family members, and that was it. I did not romanticize it. My mother, however, told a different narrative. They treated her differently. The mood toward my mother was radically different. They treated her as if she were a member of the family. I could be mistaken, but I believe that my step-siblings and stepdad were pleased to include my mother and play happy family with her while excluding me was due to my stepdad's ex-wife being a nightmare. I've never met her, but according to what I've heard, she was a total gold digger who left my stepfather nearly bankrupt following their divorce. He had to start again in his life, and to make matters worse, he had to care for my step-siblings on his own after their mother gave up custody and abandoned them to be with her new partner shortly after their divorce. Meeting a woman like my mother, who is the polar opposite of his ex-wife, was probably beneficial to all of them, but I wasn't really needed in that situation. They made me feel like an afterthought. I can't quantify it or give particular examples, but it was all about vibes and energy. Despite being a member of the family, I always felt that I wasn't really a part of it. My only consolation was the thought that I might have been overthinking things, something I used to tell myself when things got too much for me. It is strange to admit this, but I was genuinely jealous because it appeared that my mother had finally found her people, while I remained on the outside. After a few years, I began to dislike everyone because I felt left behind. I never mentioned it to anyone since it seemed tiny and insignificant, and I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. That was how life was, and while I wasn't happy about it, I was still content. Now back to what happened a few days earlier. I've been researching universities for the past several weeks because I'm about to graduate in a few months and need to start sending out applications. I wasn't concerned about the money since, as I previously stated, my mother had always informed me that there was a fund put aside for me, which I intended to use. But then, a few days ago, my mother said she needed to speak with me about something very serious. She explained that my stepfather had been unable to save enough money for his children to attend college, so she asked me to assist the family and allow my step-siblings to use the money from my college fund as well. Jackson had taken a gap year and was set to enter college at the same time as me, so that was the primary focus of our chat. Legally, My mother had no influence over the assets because my father's will clearly stated that only I would be able to choose where the money was spent after I turned 18. To be honest, I did not want to split the money with my step-siblings. For starters, I didn't consider them family, and neither did they. Second, even if I don't use the entire amount that my father set aside for me, I'd like to keep it for myself. That kind of money could help me get a head start. Useful for when I obtain my own apartment and starting living on my own until I start earning. I had already saved a lot because I went to public school rather than private, so my mother did not have to spend any money on my education thus far. I was also an excellent student, so I hoped to receive a scholarship at whatever institution I applied to and enrolled in. Money had never been a problem for me, but as I grew older and approached 18 in a few months, I began to consider saving and earning. Giving money from my fund to my step-siblings didn't seem like a good idea, so I informed my mother that I would not be sharing those cash with them since I did not believe it was necessary. If Jackson truly wanted to attend college, he could simply take out a student loan, like millions of other students do. My mother was not pleased with my response and accused me of being selfish. I didn't even disagree. I was being selfish, and I saw nothing wrong with it. So instead of battling with her, I simply informed her that I was being selfish, which was perfectly acceptable because I did not consider my step-siblings family. That's when my mother yelled at me, as if what I said was a criminal violation. It took me a few seconds to realize she was losing her mind because I had given her the truth. I did not consider my step-sibling family. The double standard was ridiculous. On the one hand, my family had treated me as an outsider for the past 8 years, and she never seemed to notice. Or perhaps she did, but she didn't care. However, when it came to me, I was suddenly expected to consider them family and treat them as such for no apparent reason. I attempted to speak to her quietly and without yelling, but it was pointless because she was already yelling at me and calling me ungrateful, among other things. So I waited for her to stop yelling before telling her that she could scream all she wanted, but I wouldn't change my mind. All that screaming at me would do was alienate me even more and make me less likely to support them in any manner. My mother calmed down a little after I said that, and I assumed we were finally going to have a sensible conversation in which I could express my feelings. But that was foolish of me. I had forgotten that in this environment, my sentiments were irrelevant. What mattered was whether my mother, stepfather, and step-siblings were content. None of them seemed to care about my pleasure. After my mother cooled down, she informed me that I had a week to decide, but if I didn't agree to divide the college fund with my step-siblings, she would have to kick me out of the family. I assumed she was joking because it looked so ludicrous, but she assured me otherwise. With my birthday approaching in less than a month, she stated that she would soon no longer be legally compelled to let me remain with them because I would not be a child. So I'd be on my own if I didn't agree to share the college fund that my father had set aside for me. I couldn't believe my own mother would say such a thing and put me in such a tough situation for the sake of my step-siblings, especially since I was meant to be her own flesh and blood. She advised me to tread carefully and think it over, since this decision could cost me everything. She then exited the room, leaving me to absorb what she had just said. It was extremely insulting to be treated that way by my own mother, and I decided that day that I was going to get out of this house no matter what the cost. So I began talking to my friends and told them that I needed help finding an apartment of my own because I was planning to move out for my 18th birthday. I told them what my mother had stated and emphasized the severity of the situation. I knew that after I turned 18, I'd have control over the money and could select where to spend it. Yes, I would have to stick to a budget and carefully select my college degree, but it was worth it since it meant I could move out and live on my own instead of putting up with my family. Or forcing them to tolerate me. After that chat with my mother, it became clearer than ever that I was not welcome in that house at all, and I had been treated as an afterthought all these years. I realized I had not overthought anything. In fact, I may have been underthinking things because I had never expected this. A few days later, a friend informed me that she had spoken with a cousin who was also applying to the same universities as I was, because we shared similar interests. Her cousin planned to live in an apartment since she wanted to be self-sufficient from the start. My buddy suggested I contact her cousin, and if we ended up attending the same college, we could rent an apartment together. I thought it was a brilliant idea and phoned her cousin right away. We figured things out, and I informed her of my condition. She was empathetic, and I could tell she was a pleasant person with whom I would get along, so that was resolved. The only thing left to worry about was where I'd live until college started, which was still a few months away. Fortunately, my friend said I could stay with them until college started. It was a dirty and risky scheme, but I was willing to go along with it since anything was preferable to living with my mother and her family. After the dispute with my mother, I was treated horribly. They weren't yelling at me or being blatantly harsh, but rather in a humiliating way. They'd all banded together against me, treating me as if I were the most repulsive thing alive. Every time I entered a room, everyone would stop chatting and leave, returning to their respective spaces. They constantly gave me the side eye and refused to speak to me, as if I had done something terrible. It was so humiliating that I wanted to run away. It took a long time to plan something for myself, but I was determined. As soon as my friends were ready to take me in, I would depart. When my mother asked me again whether I had changed my mind, I decided to tell her the truth and leave. I assured her I hadn't altered my mind and was indeed intending to depart. I said that the way she and her family had been treating me over the last week was nothing short of crazy, and I couldn't take it any longer. I told her I'd already spoken with friends and would be staying with them until I could start college and relocate far away. I made it clear that I did not want to see her again. So she might kick me out. It would make no difference to me. I already had a plan, so I wasn't surprised when my mother yelled at me again, asking me to leave since her house wasn't for selfish, ungrateful brats like me. I left, relieved to be rid of them. But it wasn't the end of my plans. During my time alone in my room, I had been planning methods to retaliate against my mother. My life had taken a bad turn after she married my stepfather, and she didn't seem to mind because she was content with her new family. I had tried to be pleased for her while suppressing my emotions, but it was clear now that she did not care about me at all. Her stepchildren were more important to her than I was. The way she treated me made me feel terrible, and I was determined not to let it go unanswered. So as soon as I got out of the home, I resolved to confront her for who she truly was. The only reason I waited a week to speak out about her unreasonable expectations was that I didn't want her to have access to me or the power to express her disappointment in me. I knew nobody in their right mind would ever agree with what she had said to me. After moving in with a friend, I decided to go online and write a post about my mother. I wrote about how my mother raged at me because I refused to pay to my step-siblings' education fund. I explained that none of them had ever treated me like family, and my mother didn't seem to care. It only became an issue when I handled them in the same manner. I discussed the double standards and how my mother had almost completely forgotten about me after moving in with her new family. I also stated that I considered my mother to be the single most selfish person on the earth because of how she had been treating me simply for saying no to something utterly stupid. Any rational person in my situation would have said no, especially because the money she was discussing was left exclusively for me by my father. It wasn't for anyone else to use, and I didn't think it was fair of her to want me to share it with people who had never treated me like a member of their family. I might have contemplated it if my step-siblings had been good to me at some point, but that was not the case. I was quite frustrated and I vented my feelings in that single post. I knew this would have a severe influence on my mother, especially because many of her friends and their children followed me on social media, but I didn't care at the time. All I wanted was to get back at her. To be honest, my mother had always been my sole source of support and happiness because I only had one parent to rely on. My grandparents were rarely in touch with me, so my mother's preference for my step-siblings over me felt like a major betrayal. I was really hurt and wanted to express myself without regard for the repercussions. So I made the post, and the results were precisely as I expected. My mother sent me multiple texts, claiming that I had ruined her life because everyone had seen the post, which had been shared numerous times. My mother was well liked within her circle of acquaintances, so it was not surprising that people were seeking for an excuse to gossip about her. I played right into their hands. She attempted to call me multiple times, but I did not answer or react to any SMS. I was terrible and had hoped that writing the post would make me feel better, but the messages my mother gave me made me feel even worse about my decision. I could see from her text that she was quite torn about this. She said things like she never expected me to do this, that she thought she raised me to be nice and sympathetic, but I was the complete opposite, and she couldn't believe I was her daughter anymore. Then she hauled out the big guns and informed me that if my father were alive today and saw this vindictive and malicious side of me, he would be tremendously disappointed and would no longer want to be linked to me. That really got to me. And I started feeling like I'd done something bad. I began reconsidering everything, which led me here. At this time, I'm not sure if it was appropriate for me to refuse to share my college fund with my step-siblings. I'm not sure if I should try to make things right with my mother and the others since I don't think I can face them after what I did. But this could also be a brilliant strategy to manipulate me, and if so, it's certainly working. That's why I need your assistance. Now that everyone knows the data, I can finally reach a conclusion. So am I bad for refusing to share my college cash with my step-siblings and then creating a negative post about my mother? Update 1. Hello and thank you so much for your response. A lot of you sent me very nice words, which made me feel better about myself and what I did. I suppose I needed that to see things for what they are. I was about to give my mother another chance just because I wanted to see the good in her. I wanted to think she wasn't a nasty person, but what kind of mother speaks and acts the way she did? She's just not a decent person, and it's time I accepted that rather than fighting it. So I blocked her so she couldn't contact me again. I knew if she texted me, it was solely to influence me or get that post removed. I do not want to take that post down. I want it to remain up till she apologizes to me. She knows where I am because my friend's mother informed her that I live with them, and she knows how to contact me. If she doesn't contact me, I'll consider it as an indication that she just cares about her reputation. Update 2. It's been 2 weeks since I moved out and started living with a friend. Since that post, I have had no touch with anyone in my family. I did attend school for a few days and bumped into Emily a couple of times, but she simply gave me a nasty look and like I didn't exist. Not unexpected, given that they've been pretending I don't exist for the previous 8 years, so it must be even simpler now. Anyway, my mother eventually came to see me last evening. She arrived with a black plastic garbage bag and put it in the living room, claiming it included all of my leftovers, basically everything I had managed to get into my duffel bag before leaving the house. It felt a little disrespectful that she had used a garbage bag to pack my belongings, and it was even more insulting when she threw everything on the living room floor, leaving me to gather it. My friend and her parents, who witnessed this, were appalled. They did not enjoy my mother's behavior and even took it upon themselves to quarrel with her over it. They advised her that given that I was her only daughter, she should have compassion for me instead of treating me so harshly. They really drilled her, and she didn't take it well. She informed them they had no right to discuss her parenting methods because they were the ones harboring a delinquent like me. I almost broke out laughing when she said that since I was not a delinquent, I was a scholar student and she knew it. I almost addressed it myself, but I didn't have to because my friend stuck up for me. She told my mother off, saying she was grateful her parents were not like mine and had a heart. It developed into a catfight after that, and my mother became enraged and fled. I was really grateful for my friend and her folks. I don't think they needed to stand up for me, but they did, and I couldn't be happier. This was probably the first time in my life that I had someone fight for me, and it was quite moving. But, in any case, I doubt my mother will return anytime soon because, after the reception she received yesterday, I wouldn't dare to show up around here again if I were her. I truly hope she doesn't show up because I'm tired of the drama. I simply want to go on with my life and start a new chapter, but I can't because she keeps reappearing. So I hope this is the last time I have to deal with her. Update 3. Hello everyone, long time no see. I've been MIA for a few months I believe, but you can't blame me. I've been applying to colleges, hoping to get into a good one with a scholarship. I've been working extremely hard and it has all paid off. I got into my first choice school, and I'm keeping to the strategy I devised a few months ago. My friend's cousin, who applied to the same universities, was also accepted, and we plan to rent an apartment and live together. She's a really sweet girl, and the fact that she's my friend's cousin is just icing on the cake since it allows me to stay in touch with everyone. The last few months have been really challenging for me emotionally, but my friends have helped me get through everything. I can't express how grateful I am to have such folks in my life. I know that many people with bad parents and families rely on their friends for emotional support, but I attempted to avoid it. However, now that I know how far my friends will go for me, I feel like they are family. I will always be grateful for everything individuals have done for me. Seriously, I don't think I could have gotten this far without everyone's help. Even the people here who reached out via message and said such encouraging things to help me get through this. It's just bizarre and funny that my mother hasn't texted me once since I moved out. She didn't care that I had unblocked her and she could now speak to me. That is how little I mean to her. But you and my pals advised me to believe in myself because I could accomplish it. It's pretty funny how strangers on the internet helped me more than my mother ever did. But that's all in the past. I'm looking forward to a fresh start here, and I'm quite thrilled about what the future holds. I overheard my girlfriend brutally mocking me to her best friend about our sex life. What happened next completely shattered our relationship. My girlfriend, Jenna, and I have been dating for just over 2 years. I am a veterinarian, and we met in my office when she brought her dog in for an ear infection. What should have been a 15-minute meeting grew into an hour-long discussion. I've never been so smitten by a woman before. Before Jenna, I lived the bachelor lifestyle and assumed I'd be unmarried forever, but that life of occasional flings was becoming old. Jenna is a charismatic woman with a large circle of acquaintances, her best buddy being Dylan, a gentleman from her hometown. I trust Jenna, but I'd be lying if I claimed I didn't care about their connection. I don't get angry or quarrel with her about it. She assures me that they've been friends their entire lives and have never had a sexual relationship. I understood that they were merely pals and attempted to buddy up with Dylan. He's been to the city 3 times and seems like a nice man, but he doesn't appear to like me much. Jenna claims he's simply being protective, but I get the impression he's jealous. Jenna finished graduate school this spring, but she's had a difficult time finding work. We've been living together for a year, and while I'm financially secure and don't mind covering expenditures, I've made it clear that if she gets a job, she must begin contributing. She texted me on Monday to say she had gotten a job, one she truly wanted, after some hard interviews. I was so pleased with her that I decided to surprise her by leaving work early and purchasing her favorite drink, Chinese takeout, flowers, and a necklace she adored from a boutique. I wanted to make the occasion exceptional. I returned home and entered the basement to get the hidden necklace, intending to surprise her. As I climbed the basement stairs, I overheard her talking on the phone and giggling excessively. It was cute, so I decided to surprise her. She was speaking with Dylan, which was not unusual. But then I noticed they were laughing at me. Specifically, about our sexual experiences. I heard her reply, "No, he doesn't even compare to my ex. My ex had at least 3 inches on me. I feel horrible every time I eat a mini carrot in front of him. It must be unpleasant for him to watch me munching on something his size." She chuckled and said, "His body is amazing as long as he keeps his boxers on. I don't care what people on Reddit say about the size of my member, but having her make fun of me in front of someone I already felt embarrassed about was extremely terrible." What made matters worse was that what she was saying wasn't accurate. I'm quite average, nothing spectacular, but certainly not comical. She also ridiculed me for being gorgeous but not super smart, which was strange given that I'm well educated. Hearing her rip me apart like that felt like a strike in the belly. I departed after that. Yes, I threw the flowers out the vehicle window and cried in the parking lot. I believe she heard the basement door close or saw my car go, since she began messaging me shortly after, wondering when I was returning home. That was Monday, and I still haven't mentioned it. I'm not sure why. I guess I'm still absorbing things. It's extremely embarrassing and hurtful, but gosh, I adore this girl. I am not saying I will necessarily forgive her. I just want to emphasize how difficult this whole situation is for me. I know I should bring it up with her, but how? Any recommendations on how to begin this conversation? I am deeply upset and I'm not sure whether I can forgive her for this. TLDR. My girlfriend and her male buddy made fun of me about our sex life and my penis. It's quite hurtful stuff. I feel like a puppy that has just been kicked in the face. I am devastated, all jokes aside. I plan to propose within the next few months. I don't see how I can forgive her or remain with her. Advice? Edit. Wow, hey, thank you everybody. I simply wanted to say that I will surely split up with Jenna. I had a beer with 3 of my buddies tonight and told them everything. Their sentiments are similar to the majority of yours. Dump her and do it quick. I called my mother and told her about it. Yes, I told her everything, as embarrassing as it was. We are getting close, and I wanted her to know the complete tale. I've never heard her so outraged about anything. She knew I had purchased a ring for Jenna. I'll post an update once I finish it. It will most likely happen tomorrow, although I may not talk about it for a few days. I'm going to be a wreck emotionally. Thank you again for your comments, messages of support and encouragement. I never expected so many people to be rooting for me. Update. I, 33M, overheard my girlfriend, 28F, make harsh fun of me in front of her best friend, 27M. When I say brutally, I actually mean brutally. Well, Reddit strangers, I stayed strong and broke up with Jenna on Thursday evening. This has honestly been the most dramatic few days of my life. I am fatigued. Things became really unpleasant on her end. Sorry for the lengthy post, a lot has transpired. At the recommendation of my friends, mother, brother, and many of you, I spoke with her in a private but still public setting. The idea was that someone who could be so harsh and reveal themselves as a liar would try to twist things and say she left me because I wounded her, or something similar. I'd like to believe she wouldn't do something like that, but who knows, especially after what has transpired. Better safe than sorry. I considered simply boxing up her belongings and breaking things up without explanation, but we've been together for nearly 2 years. I felt the best thing to do was face her gently and listen to her. Even if her explanation did not influence my choice to end our relationship, I wanted to give her the opportunity to explain. So I took her to a wine bar downtown with small private booths and half curtains. She had been saccharine sweet since Monday, which indicated that she either A, felt bad about what she did, B, believed I had overheard her, or C, had no idea why I had been aloof. She dressed quite smartly, and despite everything, I must confess she looked stunning. She was also quite loving and made provocative comments regarding future plans. Normally, my precious little baby carrot would have been overjoyed with this, but given the circumstances, it was difficult to appear normal. I had practiced what I was going to say several times, so as soon as we sat down and grabbed our wine, I started. I can't remember exactly what I said, my adrenaline was pumping, but I basically told her how much I loved her. How she's the first woman I've ever felt so close to that I opened myself totally and trusted her. I told her she was the only woman I'd ever considered marrying, but I didn't mention that I'd already bought the ring. I remarked that I hoped to have children with her in the coming years. She kept interrupting and claiming she loved me too. Then I looked her in the eyes and asked her directly why, if she loved me so much, she made fun of me in front of Dylan. Her expression seemed slightly satisfied. As expected, she initially denied it, claiming she had no idea what I was talking about. She stated that Dylan is aware of how much she loves me and would never make fun of me in front of him. I simply glanced at her and said, "Come on, Jenna." Even after I told her I'd arrived home early on Monday and overheard her conversation, she denied it. It was frustrating, but I maintained my composure. I told her that we were both aware she was lying and that what she said was unforgivable. I couldn't understand why she would say such things to Dylan, especially since she was lying solely to make fun of me. She kept rejecting it, behaving as if I were insane. She stated she loved me, was not unsatisfied with our sexual relationship, and would never complain about me. If I hadn't witnessed the exchange, I would have believed her. She deserves an Oscar for her portrayal. Some people inquired if I was certain she was talking about me. When she compared me to her ex and his cracking member, she did say my name, so there's no question. In the end, I told her I'd take us home so she could get the necessities and her dog. My brother and his girlfriend were also present. I wanted to make sure there were other people around to serve as witnesses. So I let her grab her belongings while refraining from being abusive or disruptive. I told her I'd pack up the rest of her items and set them out for her to get any time she wanted. She couldn't believe I was breaking up with her. She pleaded with me, but I was set in my ways and refused to change. It was difficult not to cry in front of her when she continued stating how much she wanted to be with me forever and that she hoped to be the mother of my children someday. I own my house, and since Jenna hasn't assisted with bills like rent or utilities, I wasn't too concerned about, to put it frankly, forcing her out. She continued asking me what she was supposed to do and where she should remain. I told her it was no longer my problem and that she could stay with friends until she could obtain her own apartment. The majority of the furnishings and decor were mine anyway. She only had clothes and toiletries to take with her. Even the refurbishing she had done in my house was on my dime. Then came the waterworks. She burst into tears, claiming she didn't understand how I could treat her like that and that she thought I was a decent guy. She must have said this a million times. I assured her I'm a good guy, which is why I didn't just put her belongings on the front lawn, change the locks, and leave without explanation. Then, to my surprise, she dug the knife in deeper. She said she had no idea why she had said those things to Dylan, but eventually admitted she had. She went on to say that maybe it's because Dylan brings out the best in her, and she can laugh at things that would ordinarily make her cry, like my penis, apparently. I told her it was unfortunate that if what I had heard was her best, I would hate to witness her worst. It was spiteful of me, and I generally avoid making sarcastic remarks, but I told her she could return to her hometown and live with Dylan or her ex-boyfriend who had the 9-inch dick. It was astonishing how quickly the tears dried up. She flicked the switch and told me I had no idea how to treat women, that I was a loser with a little penis, and that I'd be alone forever. She stated she never truly loved me and that I was more of a friend, but she didn't want to upset me, so she stayed with me. She also indicated she would have declined if I had proposed. Just for good measure, she underlined that my penis was a baby carrot, and that I would die alone. I told her that I would rather die alone than marry someone who was harsh, did not love me and did not respect me. No joke, she started screaming. Not words, just a loud, terrifying scream. It was disturbing, and she stormed away after calling me a dirty pig. After settling the bill and apologizing to the waiter for the incident, I exited, and there she was, standing outside, crying. I knew what she did was terrible, and everything she said minutes before was equally as bad, but I still didn't like seeing her like that. I did not want to leave her on the sidewalk. I live in New England, and it is already quite chilly here. I offered to drive her back to the house so she could get more of her belongings and told her that she needed to find another place to stay once she packed a bag. She agreed, and we didn't chat at all in the car. It was one of the most embarrassing experiences of my life. My brother and his wife were already at the house when we arrived. His wife remained inside while Jenna packed, and my brother waited outside with me. It passed by uneventfully, and she was picked up by her girlfriend. I made sure I had my house key back before she departed. Later that night, Jenna texted me frequently. The messages varied from sorry to sorrowful, angry, extremely angry, and back again. I did not respond to any of them. I merely texted her the next morning to let her know that her remaining stuff were on the porch and that she could pick them up while I was at work. I didn't hear from her until almost the end of the afternoon. She sent me a nasty text, wishing me every ill. I ignored it. When I arrived home, it was a disaster zone. She'd smashed everything. I'm not sure if she made a spare key or knew how to pick the locks, but she managed to get into the house. She ruined everything. Smashing precious items, ripping up furniture, clogging 2 sinks, and leaving the water running. She left the refrigerator door open and dumped food all over the kitchen. It was a wreck. The only considerate thing she did was lock my 2 dogs in a bedroom so they wouldn't be wounded by the broken glass or eat the scattered food. I own 2 vehicles, one for regular use and an SUV for work, which I use to carry large or unusual animals to the clinic. In the midst of all the turmoil, I had neglected to give her a key to the SUV for emergencies. I stepped outside to check, and she had also wrecked the inside. She poured flour and tomato soup throughout the interior. It's just things, I suppose, but the fact that she could do something so childish and horrible on top of everything else astounds me. Last weekend, we went to a play, hung out with friends, played Monopoly, invented a drinking game, watched Netflix, and made love several times. My house and automobile, as well as I, have been wrecked. It's amazing how quickly things change. Not my best moment, but I was so irritated that I immediately bought 25 pounds of baby carrots from Costco's rapid delivery service. I had them transported to her friend's house, addressed to Jenna, 100 pounds of baby carrots. They deliver within an hour. She sent me a flurry of fascinating and offensive texts that evening. Yes, it was petty, but my only regret is that I wasted food. I hope she donates them or prepares some of them. So that's it. I blocked her last night because the nasty texts kept pouring. I'm feeling really beaten down right now, and I've sobbed more than I have in a while. It is apparent that I made the proper decision. Jenna is obviously not emotionally stable or mature. She truly is harsh, and I know I deserve better. Since Monday, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on myself as a partner and trying to figure out what caused her resentment, or whatever it was. I'll be really honest here. I work a lot. I try to make time for the people I care about and avoid bringing work home when I've had a difficult day, although I do occasionally. I understand this. Jenna and I have had previous disagreements about it, and I've made a concerted effort to schedule my days so that I can return home on time. I've also attempted to avoid terrible days at work as much as possible. However, anyone who is a vet or has worked with one understands that we are always on call for emergencies. Sometimes we have patients we need to check on or stay with all night. Time off might be difficult. It is achievable, but it is difficult. My staff is fantastic and can manage most issues, but I still receive a lot of calls or texts from them when I'm on vacation or away for the day. I'm sure there were occasions when Jenna felt second best to my job. Well, I know there have been. She's told me so before. I attempted to make modifications, but there was only so much I could do. As far as I can recall, I've never been intentionally cruel to Jenna. I've had terrible days, been cranky or absent, and we've had our fair share of arguments and fights, but nothing harmful or excessive. I genuinely thought we had a good relationship and were both pleased. I know I was. It's difficult not to question myself and wonder if I'm truly a disappointment, or if I neglected her to the degree that she felt unloved enough to act the way she did. I do not know. But I know that, nevertheless, the way she treated me and responded to the breakup was completely unacceptable. I didn't deserve it, and that's on her. So thank you for supporting me, Reddit. It's been wonderful to read all of the supportive comments and suggestions. It's time for me and my baby carrot to find a woman who values us for who we are. TLDR, I broke up with Jenna on Thursday night. It didn't go well. She turned vicious and destroyed my house, car, and me, but I did it and it's finished. I've blocked her on my phone and social media. In a fit of anger, I also sent her 100 pounds of baby carrots. Edit. I did file a police report and take pictures, which might help me reclaim part of the money lost through insurance. The police report is unlikely to yield any results because I cannot confirm it was her. The same goes for attempting to sue her in small claims court. Frankly, I'd prefer not deal with her anymore. I'm going to hope that insurance covers the damages and then move on with my life. Helping my brother leave his bride at the altar because she invited our estranged mother. A family drama unfolds with surprising twists. We are 34, 32, and 28, while his ex-fiancée is 30. Not in the US. I have 2 older brothers. This is about the middle one. Our parents split when I was quite young, owing to our mother's irrational jealousy. My father was able to deal with it at first, but when she made comments about wanting me to be like his wife, he had had enough. She quickly reconnected with a man with 2 children and shared custody for a period. But when my father remarried, she went insane, calling his new wife every awful term and claiming he had cheated on her while they were married. I was always closer to my brothers and father than my mother, who was always harsh to me. Long story short, my stepmother died in a horrific car accident and my father contacted her in the middle of the night to tell her he would pick us up earlier so we could attend the burial. She chose to take us on a nice trip instead to commemorate something. It was the happiest we had ever seen her, and when we understood what had happened and began crying, she informed us that only useless people cry for prostitutes. Needless to say, things escalated, and my father requested full custody with visitation privileges for her. He always kept the lines of communication open and paid for us to see her after she moved away, but it was still really unpleasant. We began reducing contact with her as soon as we turned 18. We last saw her at my high school graduation, where she made it a point to tell everyone that we were ungrateful kids, and her husband also called us names. We have remained no contact, NC, since then. My brother Sam began dating his ex 3 years ago. She had heard all of the stories and reasons we were NC, but she thought we were being theatrical. They had many disagreements because of her ideas, but she ultimately appeared to abandon the "you need to reconcile with your mother" crusade. Throughout the wedding preparation process, there was no sign that anything was incorrect or suspicious. Then, on the wedding day, we arrived at the church and saw our mother, her husband, and 2 children sitting in the front row. I instantly panicked and contacted my brothers. Sam suspected she had found out and wanted to crash the wedding, so he called his ex to tell her of the potential turmoil. She assured him that everything was fine because she had invited them. Sam hung up and asked me to go fetch him while our older brother handled things at the church. We went home and barricaded ourselves, even while his ex, her family, friends, and others attempted to reason with him. Mom's spouse even called to say he had always known we were useless. Now that the dust has settled, the majority of Sam's friends and family support him. Our father's ex-in-laws have already threatened to sue for the money they paid for the wedding if Sam does not marry her, but Sam says he would rather repay them than marry someone who has betrayed him. Our nuclear family wholeheartedly supports Sam, but the blowback has been massive. Edit. You just reassured us all, so thank you. Some have asked, and she hasn't apologized. She also texted my oldest brother Joe, saying she felt inviting our mother would be a nice wedding gift for Sam because she values family. My father purchased them a house as a wedding present, but only Sam is on the paperwork. She had keys for when they moved in, but we only got the locks changed today. Joe and other cousins are relocating Sam's belongings from her apartment this week. We aren't concerned about being sued, but we will consult a lawyer just in case. We also learned that Mom and her family are still in town, but because we're all staying at our childhood home for a few days, we don't mind. My father is saddened that Sam is heartbroken, but he is doing his best to cheer him up, along with my boyfriend and sister-in-law. I had to deactivate my social media accounts because I was receiving abusive remarks and messages, but the more people hear about why Sam fled, the less messages I receive. I am still sorry that she was humiliated, but my brother comes first. Edit 2. I questioned Joe about the aftermath at the church, and it was precisely what I imagined. He claims he stood up in front of everyone and informed them Sam wasn't coming and that they should go home. All presents delivered to our side of the family will be promptly returned. The ex was still outside the church when someone from her family notified her. And she began yelling and wailing, constantly contacting Sam. Mom tried to speak with Joe, but he didn't even glance at her. When she couldn't obtain a reaction from him, she burst into tears, lamenting how cruel we are to her. Some people began to console her, as is customary for her, but Joe and his wife were unconcerned. When they left the church, the ex was waiting for them and demanded to see Sam. Joe resisted, telling her no. Then she wanted to know what to do about the party, to which Joe said that if she didn't want the venue, he would arrange for the food to be distributed to the workers so that it didn't go to waste. Everyone was shouting except Joe, who kept calm since he didn't want to satisfy Mom. Joe and my sister-in-law returned home after stopping at the store and various fast food restaurants, and we've been inside the house like kids again, with a few more members. When we asked Sam if he wanted them to leave, he insisted on staying. We had all planned to spend time with our families following the wedding, so it was not an issue. When the ex arrived at the gate, we understood she was not going to use the venue, so my sister-in-law called the venue with Sam's information and asked them to give the food. She also sent some advice for their problems. It appears that we will receive all of the alcohol that my father paid for, so we will be pretty drunk by the end of the year. A few people messaged me, asking why our father ever married our mother. The answer is simple: he adored her and felt she was the nicest person imaginable. It turned out she wasn't, but she knew no one else, except possibly her unpleasant husband, would marry her unless she seemed to be kind. Dad even considered staying with her until we were grown-ups, but her condition worsened. She used to be really sweet, and he thought she was changing, but she would then revert back. As for my ex-sister-in-law, we have no doubt she feels our mother is a nice person with ungrateful children, since she can be incredibly charming. Some individuals find it amusing to make fun of others as long as it is not directed at them, but this does not excuse what she did. Sam's only explanation was to his boss, who attended the wedding. His boss was quite kind and surprised by what our mother put us through, given how well adjusted and happy we appear. Our father stated it was a shock for all of us, and he told Sam to stay home for as long as he needed. Sam is returning home for the time being. I showed the post to my family, who were affected by your thoughtfulness. Sam wants you to know that his ex-fiancée did not exhibit any alarming behaviors, and he honestly believes she understood his upbringing. He agreed to meet with her and her parents today, but only if it was at our house, where we could support him. It will be an interesting visit. Update: Sam lost some money, but it will not affect him. Her parents paid for her outfit, a very beautiful cake, and a portion of the honeymoon. His ex wasn't the most popular in-law, but we believe she adored Sam. We don't have any touch with Mom's side. Joe used to communicate with our grandmother, but after his wedding, another disaster, he cut her off too. Mom's statements about me wanting to be the wife stemmed from her idea that we shouldn't have daddy-daughter days. However, there were also Daddy Joe and Daddy Sam days. Dad constantly attempted to spend time with us, both individually and as a group. She's just unwell. We don't advertise our childhood, so when others inquire about our parents, the typical response is, "It's just my dad." Or, "It's just my siblings and my dad." Most people assume Mom is deceased, avoiding the unpleasant question about why we don't speak to her. Mom's stepchildren are both male and in their early 30s. Our father now has a long-term girlfriend, and we really enjoy her. She's been doing her own thing over the last 3 days, but she says we have her full support. The update: I was curious why Sam agreed to the meeting after not speaking with her, but it turns out she sent videos and images of all his possessions on the floor to his best buddy, Tom, and threatened to burn or destroy everything unless Sam spoke with her. Tom went to see Sam and told him what had transpired. They advised her that they needed entry to the flat before anything could happen. Tom, Joe, a few cousins, and my boyfriend went over to pack Sam's clothes, devices, and crucial documentation. Sam joked that they were the fastest moving staff he'd ever witnessed. The meeting, for lack of a better term, was absurd. She arrived with her parents and sisters and attempted to speak to Sam alone, but when he refused, she simply began chatting. Not once did she apologize. She stated it was not her fault that we don't appreciate the value of a true family and were trained to despise mothers. She stated that her main purpose was to teach Sam to value mothers because she was terrified he would take her children from her, as he had been taught to do. Sam said nothing until she called our family a cult and humiliated our father. As you might expect, this is a sore subject for all of us, and we won't let anyone insult our father. Sam went off on her, calling her a disgusting liar, stating he was horrified that he had ever held her hand, and thanking the world that I am always early to everything. He informed her that sticking with a dishonest husband, like her mother did, is not anything to be proud of. He claimed she had merely pretended to be kind so that he would marry her. He then detailed all of the small faults he had overlooked because he sincerely loved her, or at least who he believed she was. Sam stated that he would never forgive her for the suffering she caused his siblings, but he did not hate her because she did not deserve so much of his attention. He concluded by saying she had had enough time to straighten things up and that because she acted like the victim, he would make sure everyone understood why he didn't attend the wedding. It was horrible, but it was therapeutic and important for Sam. Her parents said nothing but were clearly embarrassed. She cried, and her sisters attempted to defend her and their parents' relationship, expecting us to argue back, but we did not. Sam then told his ex-fiancée's father, Phil, that he could sue if he wanted, but that doing so would expose all of his family's dirty laundry to the world, which he doubted Phil would want to see. Amazingly, Phil continued to urge that Sam should try to make amends and marry his ex since they're not getting any younger, and all families fight. I have never rolled my eyes harder. The remainder of the meeting was spent on logistics, returning wedding gifts, ceasing harassment from their relatives, canceling the honeymoon, and changing the locks. Sam's ex was crying and attempting to talk to him, but Sam was all business and didn't want anything from her, He only answered directly when she mentioned keeping the engagement ring, even though no one had requested it. Later, when the booze arrived, our mother and husband crept through the gate when it opened. She said she just wanted to talk to her baby boys. My father requested her to go, but she insisted that he had raised us incorrectly and that we had embarrassed her with our actions. She couldn't believe we were such bad people, and suggested we make amends with her because we clearly lacked maternal love. She got it right, and the outcome was pathetic. Joe walked outside and ordered her to go since the cops were on their way. She took advantage of the chance to cry because it was Joe's first conversation with her in roughly 10 years. She tried to persuade him to join her and her husband for dinner, but Joe simply urged her to go and stated that the only thing he wanted to hear about her was when her burial was, so he could rejoice. Mom cried hysterically, while her husband screamed, demanding an explanation and even threatening to strike Joe. My father and Joe went back inside and left them at the gate until we noticed they had finally left. Then we closed the gate. Some people struggle to comprehend why we behave the way we do, yet what I've said about our mother is only the tip of the iceberg. Dad wasn't very proud of what Joe said, but he saw that Joe needed to express himself and was speaking on behalf of all of us. Maybe this makes us awful people, but we really don't want to see her again. We will all have family therapy sessions in addition to individual ones. Sam no longer wants the house, but Dad advises him to take things slowly, with the first step being to mend his heart. We've been watching horror movie marathons, with a few Disney oldies thrown in, and we've even created a drama bingo game with all of the possible outcomes. I suppose we are dramatic after all. We love each other and we're educated to treat others with respect, yet when pushed, we can be petty. While I would never wish to be abandoned at the altar, I would do it again because I adore my brother more than I feel sorry for her. We'll go on a family trip someday, but for now, we'll just enjoy spending time together. To the individual who said Joe is a hero, his siblings could not have asked for a greater brother and friend. We have read all of your letters and would like to thank everyone for allowing us to vent, for the awards, and for their support. Sorry if my English isn't great. Joe and Sam are clearly fictitious names, but I hope you understand. Also, my brothers are reading your remarks and want you to know how much they appreciate your positive attitude. To anyone in a similar circumstance, know that things will get better. Update 2. Some clarifications. You're welcome to PM us, even if you are insulting us, but I will only answer publicly. To the individual who wrote me a harsh essay accusing Joe of being parentified, here's my response. My brothers spent time with me because they wanted to. We had special days together, and they did anything they pleased. They had a large circle of friends and traveled both with and without me. There were nannies, family members, and my father, so they were never obliged to bring me along. They enjoyed a great deal of freedom, within reason. Our parents split when I was 3, and despite shared custody, we spent 90% of our time with Dad. We only went to see our mother in pairs. Joe and Sam only paid her visits once she turned 18, and I had to accompany them because they didn't want me alone. We've all been in therapy for a while, but now we're having extra sessions because we saw our mother again. Joe was the only one to interact with her. We also know how to defend ourselves. Joe confronted our mother on his own. We did not ask him to do so. Why didn't my dad accompany Joe to church? Because Sam begged our father to go home, we didn't think he needed to visit our mother again, even though he had to speak with her later. Sam has cried. He is not a monster. He is simply heartbroken. He believed he could spend the rest of his life with Daniela, that he was a good judge of character, and that he would never have to face our mother again. There are many emotions, but because of our upbringing, we've gotten quite skilled at controlling our feelings with people we don't trust or like. We learned this survival ability as a result of how we were treated. Joe had a relationship with our grandma, but he stopped communicating with her after she invited our mother to his wedding as her +1. The location did not host any religious ceremonies, and security had a no-entry list. Joe sent Grandma a note and never spoke with her again. We also did not attend her funeral. The wedding had roughly 250 attendees, and Daniela used different names on the seating chart, so we didn't know about the invitation. By the way, Daniela is not Brazilian, and my father wanted me to let you know that his children are not alcoholics. He's worried that people will believe we are, even though this is anonymous, LOL. Anyway, this week has been crazy. Those who advised being prepared for the pregnancy technique were right on. She announced online that she was pregnant, leading others to stress out and phone Sam to see whether it was true. Sam called her and urged her to remove the post, but she kept insisting she was pregnant. He told her they needed to talk, so she erased the post and met up with him. This woman assumed he wanted her back. I accompanied Sam to meet her. She was joyful until she saw me enter the room, at which point she burst into tears and clutched her tummy. Sam questioned her whether she was truly pregnant, and she responded yes, claiming she did not want her child to grow up in a shattered home. Sam insisted on going to the doctor right away to confirm, and she cried even more, yelling that he didn't believe her. Long story short, she was not pregnant. However, following the encounter, she claimed online that Sam was pressuring her to have an abortion and that she was upset. As you may guess, this was terrible, and people were phoning Sam, unsure what to trust anymore. When my sister-in-law, Anna, learned about the posts, she called Daniela. I am not sure what was stated during that chat, but I have never seen Anna so upset. The posts were removed, but Anna sent an email to everyone on the wedding list explaining everything, including the fact that Daniela was never pregnant. This morning, we learned that Daniela had a breakdown and left voicemails for Sam stating that if she couldn't be with him, she wanted to die. This is straight out of our mother's playbook, so Sam called the cops and reported what had occurred. Her family put her into therapy, and she is currently being monitored. None of this makes us happy, but we don't want to be involved anymore. We've already changed our phone numbers and requested new ones. Our mother even emailed Anna, threatening to sue her for defamation over the email campaign, but we aren't worried. Anna's parents are wonderful and fully back how she handled the situation. Joe was upset, but Anna persuaded him to let go and move forward. Mom's spouse has been charming as usual, and Dad is considering a restraining order, which isn't very effective where we live. We had a great time together at home yesterday. There was karaoke, dancing, delicious food and beverages, games, and even a bouncy house, because why not? We adore them. Most people avoided discussing the wedding and the drama, but those who did so in an appropriate manner. Dad has already handed most of the alcohol he paid for as wedding gifts to his employees, allowing them to select one bottle each. He's also including bottles in his Christmas gift baskets this year. We are spending the holidays together and traveling. I told Sam about a new paint color for the house, but he simply does not want to live there anymore. He plans to rent it out. When I joked about eloping or not having a formal wedding to avoid turmoil, Joe told me unequivocally that if I chose to marry, I would have the largest party ever. He is still the finest. Thank you for all of your wonderful comments and messages, not the negative ones, awards, and interest in our situation. And to all the lovely Danielas out there. Sorry, but this is not about you. Holiday update, thank you for your continued interest. It's always enjoyable to log in and keep you updated on the situation. First, a few points. Hello, finest subreddit and YouTube, you've become part of our family lore. I read every single comment and message. Some people commented that I lacked a feminine figure in my life, although I had my grandmother, aunts, and others. Rita, my father's girlfriend, is not a mother figure, and I do not consider myself a bad woman because of it. When I got my period, my father had a complete plan in place. He told my brothers, and they each took their own method. It may sound awkward to me, but it was even more so for them. It's a funny story that makes me realize how much they care about me. Rita is great, and we adore her. She doesn't mind not being married to Dad, and he doesn't want to marry again, but if he did, we'd support him. Daniela's sisters attempted to stir up more trouble by accusing us of being nasty people, but after Anna's email, no one believed them. One of her sister's boyfriends even broke up with her because he didn't want to be associated with such a nasty family. I will not tell you where we live or what Dad does for a living, so please do not ask again. We have new phone numbers, social media identities, and are preparing a move. Joe and I also have some news. I keep a short note with fictitious names, and I type my posts in Word to prevent stumbling over my babbling. My father wants you all to know that your applications to the cult have been accepted. Anyway, I looked at the last update and couldn't believe it was only in early November. I mostly have positive news for you. Sam's doing great. He's taking time off work, and his supervisor is quite accommodating, telling him he may return when he's ready. He lives with Dad and has adequate savings, so he isn't concerned about money. He has taken up jogging and intends to compete in a marathon next year. Sam is gradually returning to his goofy self, and he is actively assisting Dad in renovating their home, primarily by painting rooms and creating murals. They're having a great time. Daniela wrote Sam a note, but he returned it. The house was listed as a rental, which Sam is fine with. Now for some more exciting news. I am engaged? It turns out that this has been planned for months, and when I joked about eloping, my future husband Matt panicked because he assumed I had worked out his plot. He had already spoken with Sam, who was aware of the proposition but did not want to make him uncomfortable. Joe, and my father. My father gave Matt a hard time when he asked for my hand, saying it was not his to give, but it was all in good fun. The proposal happened earlier this month, and I'm overjoyed, But not as much as my father, who insists on escorting me down the aisle, even if it's a civil wedding. While my news is fantastic, the other major announcement in the family is much better. Joe and Anna had been on the adoption list for a while, and a few weeks ago, they welcomed a baby girl. She is the most gorgeous, charming, and perfect baby ever. The adoption is final, as it usually is with infants in our nation. We knew they wanted to adopt, so when they told us the baby was finally theirs, there were many happy tears. Dad is in full grandpa mode, and despite some difficult circumstances this year, this is by far the nicest thing that has happened to our family. Unfortunately, our mother learned about the baby and requested to meet her. She has been served with our version of a restraining order, and we are determined to keep her from seeing the baby if at all possible. These are the negative news updates. Because of the new COVID version, we decided to stay at home for the holidays and hold a little Christmas celebration to welcome the baby and commemorate our engagement. Joe and his wife were unable to attend in person because the baby was too young, but they participated via Zoom. We also agreed to give Sam some stupid gifts, like Julia Roberts t-shirts and mugs, because he's the family's runaway bride. Joe and I are considering moving because we currently live in flats and would like to reside in a house. We're still a little shaken up by everything, and we know we have some emotional work to do, but we're focused on the good because the bad is in the minority. Whatever happens, I'll always be grateful for my family. I suppose this will be the final update, people. I realize the previous few have been mainly drama-free and perhaps not as thrilling, but we're hoping for less drama in our lives. I have no plans to erase anything, so the account will remain active in case something important happens. I wish you all a fantastic end of year and an amazing 2022. 2022 catch-up. Hello cult. I suppose it is time for a little update for those who are still interested. First, a few points. Yes, Spanish is our native tongue. Adoptions in our country are final and managed by the government, with open adoptions being rare. Joe and Anna have been wanting to have a family through adoption for quite some time. When I mentioned hummus before, it was like when they announced the Pope, LOL. We are now 35, 33, and 29. HB was supposed to stand for husband, but I adore how some of you understood it as huge bastard. Either works, honestly. Joe and I relocated as anticipated last year, and the year has been relatively uneventful. Daniela, on the other hand, surprised everyone by revealing that she is pregnant and that Sam is the father. The strange thing is, Sam cannot be the father because he was not even in the country when the baby was conceived. She had no way of knowing, however. Sam has offered to perform a paternity test several times, but she refuses. Legally, Sam is fine. He just feels awful for her baby. Daniela's father even attempted to sue Sam for emotional distress on behalf of both of his daughters, Daniela and the one whose boyfriend departed. But nothing came of it, thanks to Joe, who is a lawyer. I promise that this information is related to this catch-up. Sam chose not to take any action against Daniela's father since he has too many responsibilities and feels sorry for the family. Our mother still insists on meeting the baby, but it will never happen. She used one of her favorite tactics, pretending she has cancer. She contacted Joe and Anna via their work emails, pleading with them to help her meet the baby since she is critically ill and may require a transplant. This is the 6th time she has claimed to have cancer, but the truth is that she has had it 0 times. She enjoys the attention, sorrow, and drama that evil individuals bring forth in others. We never believed her, of course, but we didn't expect her to make a spectacle of herself by contacting Anna's mother via Facebook. Anna's mother is a gorgeous, devout Catholic lady, so Mother may have felt she was simple to manipulate. Mother told her about the cancer and how heartbroken she was that she would not be able to meet the baby. Anna's mother asked a few questions concerning the diagnosis and therapy, which made no sense as predicted. She then blocked her and shared the screenshots on her wall. It's similar to high school drama, but with more mature characters and witty comebacks. Other than that, the baby is absolutely happy and healthy. The only point of contention was what to call Rita, Dad's girlfriend. Our mother insisted Rita had no right to be called Grandma. Joe and Anna spoke with Rita, and they all agreed that for all intents and purposes, she is Grandma Rita, and our mother can do nothing about it. Sam's doing great. He resigned his job and embarked on his own venture. He is still living in the family home, renting out the second house, and is seeing someone. She's polite, knows about the drama, bakes beautiful cakes, and knows how to knit. We like her, so we're optimistic and cautious. They're taking things slowly, but it's great to see him with someone like this. He also continued to paint rooms with Dad, and the results are painfully comical and stupid, like something you'd see in kindergarten. Please keep in mind that I adore them. Dad contracted COVID for the first time, and he became so afraid that he decided to rewrite his will. That's why Joe's profession is important, They wanted Sam and me to know about it after they were done. Everything Dad has is divided into 4 parts, 3 for his children and the remaining quarter for any grandkids. However, the family home will not be divided and will soon be transferred into my name. I was perplexed, but Joe and Dad reviewed it and decided I could have it, but only if Sam agreed. He did, and he's pleased with it. They didn't provide many explanations, other than that it was the correct thing to do. I believe it's partly because I'm the baby of the family, but that's fine. Joe acquired a house in the same neighborhood as our family home, so while we're not on the same block, we're close. Matt and I are no longer buying anything because I will be getting the house, which makes no sense. We relocated to the family home, which has been interesting yet enjoyable. Dad has started semi-retirement and is spending more time at Rita's, which benefits everyone. Sam, of course, can stay as long as he likes, but his murals must go, LOL. We're still engaged, happy, enjoying babysitting, and not pregnant. But we bought a kitten this spring. We're planning a wedding in December and couldn't have asked for a nicer year-ending celebration. So that is it, no drama, or at least not much drama. We're making progress and healing at a steady pace, which is exactly what we want. In case you're wondering why I'm posting now, one of us is a big admirer of the best of Redditor updates and reminded us of the posts. Anyway, hello from the cult, and we wish you everyone a fantastic final few months of 2022. 2023. Catch up, welcome to Reddit. First, as tradition dictates, we now have 2 cats. Sam moved in with his girlfriend, and we're so glad he's happy again. Dad has semi-moved in with Rita, which has been heartbreaking, but we remain cheerful and supportive of one another. Let us start with the negative news. It turns out that there was cancer on our mother's side, but not hers. One of her stepchildren got it and died earlier this year. She's milking it for all it's worth, and we're furious with her as always. While we sympathize with her loss, we will not change our no contact, NC policy with her and her entire family. Daniela had her kid, a very lovely boy who is clearly not Sam's, not that we ever doubted it. She tried to get him to acknowledge the baby and sign some paperwork, but he refused, and after the paternity test, there was nothing she could do. She lost it when she found out Sam was genuinely dating, and it only got worse when he moved in with his girlfriend. She still feels he is the one for her and is focused on that notion. She even attempted to cyberbully the GF, but this woman is composed of something different. Oh, and the father of her child is a married co-worker in his 50s, which is a whole other story, but not ours to handle. Sam moved in with his girlfriend, and he's still in therapy, as we all are, but he's doing much better. His girlfriend is highly well liked and adored by the family. She understands all that has transpired and has blended seamlessly. Sam is doing well in other areas too and has already completed his first marathon. The timing wasn't ideal, but he did it. Joe, Anna and the baby are all quite pleased. They are still on the list to adopt because they want to have at least one more child. I also wanted to explain that in my country, adoptions are not handled via agencies. You're put on a list after certain tests and interviews to determine whether you're a good candidate, and when a match is made, you get the baby. That baby is yours, and that's it. I understand that this may sound ambiguous, but keep in mind that we are not from the United States, and things differ from country to country. Aside from that, she is simply the best baby ever. I may be biased, but she truly is. Baby is also frequently told no, since we all believe she shouldn't be spoiled, or at least not too spoiled. She has a room at our house and a playpen at Sam's because they are still seeking for a permanent residence, and Sam and his girlfriend work from home. Dad is currently living with Rita. They are really pleased and have lately done a few of excursions. They like being grandparents and are very hands-on. They now claim to have 3 grandbabies, because the cats occasionally visit their home. It's hilarious because my father wasn't initially enthusiastic about getting cats, but now he takes photos of all his babies and prints the finest ones because that's what he's accustomed to. He shares progress reports with his pals, and they often wonder if he's talking about the cats or the baby because he's so enthusiastic about everything they do. In my perspective, he gets kids far too many toys, but apparently that is what grandfathers do. LOL. We were married in December. My father led me down the aisle, despite the fact that we did some unconventional things for our nation. Joe was Matt's best man, while Sam was my best maid. He insisted on being referred to as Julio throughout the wedding planning process. Our mother tried to attend the wedding. She even tried to persuade Anna's mother to help her, but Anna's mother said nothing. Some of mother's relatives thought it was undignified, not sure if that's the correct term, to have Rita there instead of my own mother, but I believe it's horrible to condone her actions. To each their own. We had a great time, and it was not stressful at all. Nobody fled, yelled out in grief, or attempted to cause a scene. We're rebuilding a portion of the house to make it more ours, and moving out of my childhood bedroom, but so far, everything is going well for the cult. Sam received fewer Julia Roberts themed gifts this year, but he proudly wears his t-shirts all year long. Finally, Sam's girlfriend has approached us about proposing to him when the time is perfect, so who knows, maybe this time he'll make it to the altar. Am I the asshole for skipping my friend's birthday without warning, because his girlfriend called me the typical girl best friend? Original post. Miles and I have known each other since we were 2 because our parents are best friends. Now I would not say Miles is my best friend. He is a good friend and we do hang out on occasion but see each other on all major holidays because of our parents. We are in our early 20s. The problem started because of a dumb childhood memory. When we were 8, we had a wedding play at school after care. I played the bride and the groom. It was a play with horrible songs and uncoordinated kids. Obies, our parents made pictures and videos of that. And we each have one picture on our family picture walls. Miles is dating Lindy. They met 3 years ago and started dating last year. Lindy does not like me. So every time we coincide at a celebration, she makes a comment about me being the typical girl best friend. She once said that I secretly wanted to sleep with Miles. I have no clue where she got that impression from. Miles and I have different friend groups and schedules. Besides the monthly catch-up over food, we didn't really meet that much. Things got worse when Lindy saw the wedding play picture. The comments just got more. She even started DMing me on Instagram saying she knew what game I was playing. I talked to Miles once about this, and he told me to give her time. So his birthday was on Saturday and I was invited. Lindy wrote me saying something along the lines that she was going to supervise me. This was their first birthday as a couple, and I was not allowed to take up his time. I was honestly just fed up. I tried talking to Miles once more, but he said the same thing. So I just skipped out. When the party started, I wrote a quick "sorry I can't come" and told him my mother was going to bring his present. Now he is upset with me for missing his birthday. Lindy is mad that I made it all about myself, and my parents are upset I missed a family function. AITA? Edit, I didn't show anyone the messages because it didn't want to make more out of this than it is. I didn't want to poison anyone against Lindy, especially not if she is a new fixture in Miles's life. That would make both our lives more difficult. I hope that just talking about it might be the more adult thing. My parents are not mad at me or blowing up my phone. iReddit fashion. They and Miles' parents were just bummed out that this was the first birthday that I ever missed. As to why she is jealous, I have no idea. Neither of our parents ever wanted us to get together. There were no jokes or anything about it. I think they also never would want that. The wedding play picture is in the living rooms because they loved the picture and it was our first play. Update. I will update you in the first part and clarify some things later. After my post, I talked to Miles. At first, he was kind of mad and thought I had been blowing things out of proportion. Some more details are in my last post. We came to the conclusion of taking more distance while he figures that all out. Mainly because I did not want the added stress of petty drama. Then I talked to my parents and explained to them what was going on. They were really upset by how Lindy treated me. Obviously they weren't going to get involved, but it was nice to get that off my chest. Then nothing else happened. Until Tuesday evening. Wednesday was a holiday, so some of my friends took the opportunity to go to an Irish pub to do karaoke. At some point my best friend and I went to pee and touch up our makeup. Then Lindy and some of her friends walked in and kind of cornered us. It wasn't pretty. They stared loudly talking about man-sealing bitches and how some women were just born to be homewreckers. And imagine being pathetic enough to pretend to be a guy's friend to fuck him and how pick-me's are the worst. They kept kind of edging us physically into the part where the hand dryers were while pretending we were not there. Until my best friend had enough and just pushed through them while pulling me behind her. We were almost at our table when Lindy went right behind me and pulled my hair, so that I fell backward onto like a metallic piece where you were supposed to put your feet on. It hurt so bad that I started to see white. And then a girl next to Lindy poured beer on me. I cannot really tell you what happened, but there was a scuffle, and someone dropped one of those heavy pint glasses on my head. The Lindys were taken away by police and I was taken to the hospital. My parents were furious, as were Miles's parents. They both came to the hospital. I was severely concussed, my nose was fractured, and the worst thing is that I have a hairline fracture in my back. I stayed in the hospital till yesterday morning. Miles did try calling me a bunch. According to my parents, they told him not to visit me right now. I did get an official notice saying that apparently there was now a legal case open against Lindy and one other girl for not only assault but also public disturbance in the bar. So now I'll have to deal with all that legally. I finally talked to Miles. And long story short, those of you saying Lindy was isolating him was a sign that an abusive relationship was right. He told me all the things she said to him to make him feel awful. She would freak out about anything in her life and take that out on him. She would scratch him and bite him when she was mad. Our talk ended with both of us crying and apologizing. We will be closer again. At least we can talk about these things more often. He broke up with her and is hiding at my parents' house. So that is it for now. Update 2. I'll update immediately and go into details later. There has been an official court date set for my process against Lindy. It took 2 months to get and is another 3 months out, but something is something. Our lawyer said that Lindy is probably not going to jail as she is a first-time offender. If she goes to jail, it would be no more than 3 months. Most likely she is going to have to pay a fee of 100 days of her income or something like that. I have let my father deal with this 100% because I have no head for it. There is a second lawsuit going on at the same time as now I am legally chronically ill. The hairline fracture was not a passing thing but developed. I am in pain daily. Not every day is bad, but not a day passes where I am not in at least a 2 on the pain scale. As a result, I have not been able to work. Right now my insurance pays 75% of my former income and my workplace covers the rest. But I am probably going to get fired. So my insurance filed a claim against Lindy to pay my lost wages. I am right now not in contact with Miles. I tried to be supportive, but being disabled by his jealous ex-girlfriend made me bitter against him. He was a victim. But now I can't live my life. And I blame him partly for that. I am in therapy to work through all of that and have taken up some new hobbies. I have started to write more and am looking into courses or online classes. Miles's parents have been apologetic and have supported me a lot. His mother had been a saint. She volunteered to drive me everywhere, and I have actually become friends with her. We even went to see Deadpool and Wolverine. She is a SAHW, so we have a lot of time. One of Lindy's friends reached out through my lawyer, offering a testimony against her own friend. She also sent a letter apologizing. To make it short, Lindy had told them I was bullying her and that Miles had once already cheated on her with me. So that's where we are right now. Take care and shield your back. New update. Hey everyone. So, here we are again, and yeah, things have moved along, but honestly, I'm just tired. The first court date, it came and went. It was my insurance company versus Lindy, and surprise, she lost. She's on the hook for most of my lost wages, which is nice, I guess. I didn't have to be there the whole time, which I was grateful for because I've had enough of this mess. As for the criminal case, well, we don't even know if we'll end up going to court for that one. My lawyer is handling it, and I've handed the reins over to my dad because honestly, I've had it. I'm no legal expert, and after that insurance loss, Lindy's in a bad spot. Her legal team is apparently scrambling to do some serious damage control, but at this point, that's not my problem. More of Lindy's friends have crawled out of their hidey holes to give testimony. Turns out this wasn't her first rodeo. Another girl came forward with evidence of Lindy pulling similar stunts back in high school. This poor girl was just sitting next to Lindy's then boyfriend, being a normal human, and Lindy went off the rails, starting rumors and spreading literal breadcrumbs on her table to trigger her celiac disease. Yeah, she's that kind of psycho. No one could prove it at the time, but now, with all these friends popping up, it's all coming to light. And believe me, these girls didn't have some moral epiphany. They're just terrified of getting fired or having anything negative pop up in their records. The receipts are coming out, and it's getting uglier by the day. Now, let's talk about Miles, because that's a whole other dumpster fire. I'm still not speaking to him. Turns out he's known for a while that Lindy was threatening him with bad things if he didn't cut me off and make his parents stop talking to me. And this idiot laughed it off. Thought she meant breaking up with him or something. But no, she was dead serious, even started stalking me and one of his cousins. She made some fake profile and was sending cryptic messages to his cousin. What did Miles do? Talked her down. Yeah, that's it. She kept giving him ultimatums, and he just rolled with it. So, yeah, I'm even angrier at him now. He knew she was unhinged and didn't do a damn thing about it. He let her spiral while I got dragged through the mud. His dad finally got involved and dragged him to the police, where they filed reports about all the crap Lindy pulled. They have evidence now from the stuff with his cousin and even photos from when Lindy got physical with him. So at least something's happening on that front, but it's too little, too late if you ask me. As for Lindy, well, she's gone radio silent. Except for TikTok, of course. My friends keep sending me her cringy videos and it's honestly kind of disturbing. She's acting like nothing's happening, like her whole life isn't unraveling. She's got a new boyfriend now, and they're making those awful lip-sync videos together. I think she's living at his place, but who knows? Maybe her parents cut her off. Wouldn't be surprised. Oh, and the guy? Yeah, one of my friends looked him up. Let's just say he fits right into her pattern. As my grandma would say, there's a lid for every pot. On the health front, still nothing good to report. My pain hasn't improved, and I'm now waiting for a surgery appointment, which looks like it'll be early 2025. The pain is radiating to my left hip now, which is just great. I feel like that sad little dog from the Black Cauldron. But, hey, silver lining. I've made friends with a few of the nurses who work with me. One of them braids my hair, which is kind of sweet. I'm also seeing a physiotherapist regularly, mostly for massages at this point. It helps, but some days I feel like I'm just patching myself together with duct tape. The therapist suggested I start doing pool exercises, so now I'm in an aqua aerobics class for seniors. No, there isn't a disability-specific class in my town, and frankly, I didn't feel like looking too hard. The old ladies are a riot though. Well, except for one who always looks miserable, but honestly, I'm not one to talk. One piece of good news, I finally got approved for a wheelchair. So at least I can go out with my friends without feeling like my body is falling apart after an hour. I've also been taking a few university courses for fun and playing way too much Fallout. So there's that. And that's where we are. It's still a mess, but I'm just doing what I can to get through it. Thanks for sticking around, I guess. A player's mom nearly ruined my D&D game, but instead led me to love, friendship and a new role as Uncle Caleb in a found family. Original post September 13th, 2024. I run 2 D&D games. One I run at a local game shop. It is family friendly and I welcome anyone who can behave and take a shower. Second game is run at my house with me and my 4 oldest friends. We get drunk and screw around in the campaign. It's a campaign we have been running since 5e first came out and is very much built around our terrible humor. Very not public play space friendly. New player is a nice 9-year-old kid named Simon. He loves playing in my public game and found out I run another game. Asked if he could join and I told him it wasn't really open to new players. He was cool about it. Simon is a good kid. Simon's mom found out later when she picked him up and tried to force him into my other game. I had to get the owner to help me calm her down and get her to leave. Simon was in tears apologizing. I felt so bad for him. Owner told mom if she ever set foot in his store again he'd ban her and Simon from the store and get the police involved if he had to. She left in a hurry and almost boned a car in her rush to leave. Simon's dad drops him off now. He came to me and the owner and begged for our forgiveness. Turns out mom wanted Simon in my game as a form of babysitting so she could go out and party with her other terrible mom friends. We told him as long as it's him dropping Simon off there won't be any issues. He's a good kid, and I'd hate to lose our monk. TLDR, I run 2 games. One is kid-friendly, the other is private at my home. Kid wanted private games. I said no. Mom got mad and ruined everyone's day because she is a bad person. Edit. Thanks for indulging in my drama sharing. Love the hobby. Simon is a great little dude. His dad is a great big dude. Glad to have met them. Thanks everyone for letting me spam replies and shoot the breeze. You're all great. Update September 17th, 2024. If I have any updates on things I'll post on my profile so as to not spam unrelated things on various subreddits. Original post here. Hey everyone. It has been pure chaos the last few days but after everyone was so nice I figured I'd let you guys know what has happened since it's mostly good news and should put some minds at ease. I ran into Simon's dad and his sister Anna at the store and they invited me out to lunch to chat. Simon's doing pretty well all things considered. Dad says he and mom were already most of the way through the divorce process but he and his almost ex-wife agreed to keep it quiet until they had finalized some agreements. Mom showed her ass yet again and basically admitted she didn't want Simon very often and negotiated for some money in exchange for giving full custody to dad with a few holiday visitations, if she can make it. She's moving a few states away to live with some of her friends from college. He doubts they see her more than once a year if that. He said it went as well as he could have hoped. He's just glad it's almost over. Auntie Anna, as Simon calls her, is dad's sister. She's stepping in to help with Simon while dad juggles everything. She brought him to the shop this weekend and she hung out by me while I ran the game so she could learn. Everyone had a good time. Even got a few giggles from Anna so I'll consider that a GM's job well done for first impressions of the hobby. Shame the first RP she had to see was me as Marty the farty lizard folk merchant NPC that they ran into last session. Lots of hissing and farting noises out of me for 15 minutes. Simon was able to pass enough con saves to buy what the party needed from Marty, discounts in exchange for risk of poison damage, and they tricked the corrupt town guard into accidentally arresting themselves due to an elaborate performance by the bard and Simon's monk. Game went well. Anna and I talked while Simon looked at all the dice sets for an hour after the game. She's been pulled into a parent group of parents of kids in Simon's class. I guess Simon has all the other kids wanting to try playing, and since my private game is on hiatus for at least 6 months, I offered to run one if the parents were comfortable with it. I end up getting added to the group chat, and Anna's house is where we're gaming. Next day Anna and I met up for lunch and I helped her put together a gaming space in her living room. A few of the moms came by to drop off some snacks and to introduce themselves in person. I feel like I've been adopted into a family of families, but I don't even have a family of my own. Everyone has been great. I'm so glad Simon is surrounded by these people and not people like his mom. The kids were all very well behaved. Anna and I were a bit nervous being the chaperones for a bunch of kids, but Simon's friends are great. They all had a blast making characters and doing the test encounters I had for them. There's a girl that made certain she was always seated next to Simon and barely took her eyes off him. She has a huge crush on him, but doesn't think he even realizes what's going on. It's adorable. Parents were all happy with game night, and honestly I liked running for all kids way more than I had expected. Anna and I agreed we were fine with doing this regularly, so now Anna and I are the game masters to everyone. Also, I'm now Uncle Caleb to Simon. Not sure what I did to earn the title, and I definitely didn't get emotional when he called me that. So that's about it. I still run 2 games. I've been adopted by a 9-year-old. And I've taken over Anna's living room with minis and battle mats. Simon is an incredible little dude, and I'm glad to have met him and his amazing family, one parent excluded. TLDR, mostly good news for Simon and his family. I've been adopted into said family somehow, and I'm now running a game for a bunch of Simon's friends in place of my private home game for the time being. Edit. Thanks again, folks. Like I said in a comment earlier, I don't foresee there being anything else to update on that would be relevant to this sub, so, barring some other bizarre incident happening to me while I'm gaming, I suppose this is me fading into the background. I think I smell something. Oh God, Marty's back. Edit 2. Just gonna sneak this in here because people are actually messaging me like crazy and I wanna just state my status with Anna. I am deeply infatuated with her. I could just go on about her like a love-struck puppy, but I'm embarrassing myself enough as it is. We've got a busy next couple weeks ahead of us, but luckily for me a lot of that busy time will be spent with her working on things for Simon and the game nights. So for now I'm gonna let things be, give us time to know each other better. We've been texting pretty regularly the last few days, and I'm starting to think there's something here. Once things calm down I fully intend to ask her on a date. Too many folks in my life and on here telling me I'd be an idiot not to. Also spoke with Drew, Simon's dad, this morning and he's doing alright. Said he'll be better in a few weeks when he's able to take some vacation. Gonna take Simon on a father-son trip for a few days. He's exhausted. Even with the reduced workload he's just now getting time to rest. Poor guy needs it. New updates. I've fallen really hard for a woman I just met. September 27th, 2024. It's been a week. I've known this woman for about a week and I've already fallen hard. Infatuation levels are all set to max. She's incredible. Gonna be spending a lot of time with her for a few weeks and I and a lot of folks we know are saying I should ask her out. I'm going to. I just want to let us get through this busy point and take a bit of time to get to know her more first before I do that. If anyone sees this September 22nd, 2024, I'm just going to update here if I have any good news to share at some point. Update for anyone still curious. October 4th, 2024. Hello everyone. While this is an update originating from a post on RPG horror stories, there isn't much of a horror story anymore. Just some updates on my situation and the people in my life. I wasn't expecting as much interest after the initial drama, but I've also been made aware just how much of a dense goober I am, partially thanks to folks on Reddit pointing some things out. My nephew Simon is the coolest little dude in the universe. His interest in board games is starting to really take off ever since Anna brought him over to my place and he saw my shelf of games. He absolutely loves Ticket to Ride. I gave it to him and he wants to play it next game night. The public game party is now chasing the big bad through a few portals leading to a chronomancer's domain in the stomach of a kraken. So that should be fun. Simon has expressed interest in learning to DM. I'll teach him everything I know. I would gladly play in any campaign that boy runs. He said he has some ideas and I intend to help him make those into dice-based reality. As for how he's handling the situation with his mom, Simon is doing well, but he struggles. He's very clingy toward Drew. I'm betting this is normal for kids in Simon's situation. Simon has Drew, Anna, and a good head on his shoulders. He'll be fine. Drew and Simon spend a lot of their time together just doing little projects. They're currently putting together a puzzle while watching Simon's shows. Drew told me this was a once-a-month thing due to his work schedule. Now it's several times a week and they both love it. Drew did need a little time to decompress from dad mode, so one night he and I went out to a bar for a few drinks. He told me about his plans to take Simon out of town on a father-son trip. Simon's just excited the hotel has a pool. Drew says he doesn't plan to date or do anything anytime soon. The ink's still dry on the divorce papers. I think being a single dad is what I want to be right now. He wants to focus on Simon and figuring out what life looks like for them going forward. As for Anna, she was initially busy balancing work, Simon, game nights, and a bunch of other responsibilities since she stepped up to help Drew. Things stabilized a lot faster than anyone expected, with the divorce resolving smoothly and Simon being the easiest child in the world to take care of. Now that Drew is using vacation time, she has had a bit more free time until he goes back to full-time work. So she's been catching up on some of her hobbies like baking and playing games on her Switch. I had to come over and run the cables to hook it up to her TV because she couldn't reach it. She also needed my help setting up her Wi-Fi when she got a new router. And she has had multiple issues with her laptop that I've had to resolve for her. That woman is brilliant in every other regard, but truly clueless when it comes to tech. But I was paid for my ticket resolutions in homemade meals. So I'll call it even. The more time I spent with Anna, the more confident I got that asking her out was the right call. So I asked her out and she said yes. Unfortunately, Anna gets migraines semi-regularly and one hit her just before our date. I came over and she was visibly miserable, but trying to convince me it was okay and we'd still go out. I practically had to order her to go get into bed. Got her migraine pills and some water for her. Blacked out the curtains and told her to call if she needed anything. She called me a few hours later asking for something to eat because she was feeling better, so I got her some dinner and ate with her. She kept trying to apologize, but I told her to make it up to me with another date the next day. Which we were able to actually go on. It was a fantastic night. Had some amazing food and walked around town and talked, then went back to drop her off and we sat out in my car for another hour and talked. The last thing she said before getting out and running in was, "You're my boyfriend now, by the way," before shutting the door. I had no intention to argue even if she'd left me time to. Since then we've gone on a few more dates in our free time and we're both really happy with how things are going. It turns out Anna was a few days away from asking me out herself if I didn't make a move. She also hasn't stopped teasing me about Marty and his farts. And I told her about the werewolf Pierre Wolf I'm using soon and she won't stop patting my head and calling me the good boy. I'm not giving her character previews anymore. I guess that's it. In the last few weeks my life has changed so drastically it's insane. This may be strange to say, but thank you for sharing in this internet sharing circle thing that this became for me. My husband died, but I have to pretend he was a good man. Overcoming a *C to reclaim freedom and start a new life for myself and my children. Original post. My husband passed away 3 months ago. I was relieved of that. He abused me financially, mentally, and even physically. When I got pregnant, he convinced me to quit my job, saying that he would take care of me. I could never buy anything again without asking his permission. I couldn't even buy a cream without asking his permission, and he decided if I could or not, even months ago, that I had a little money of my own. I had to ask him for permission to buy something. What was mine was his and his was his. But I stayed there because I still loved him and I didn't have a place to go. I had too low self-esteem and let myself be stepped on. When I stopped loving him, he had already had his first affair. He made me believe that I was to blame for the affair because I didn't want to have sex months after my birth. That left me torn and I had to receive stitches. I was already planning my exit and saving money little by little while I was working selling things from home, since he wouldn't let me work outside because he was very jealous. I wanted to pay for a lawyer. He was having another affair with a friend of his, which luckily kept him busier, and I didn't care anymore that he didn't pay attention to me. I wanted him to stay as far away as possible. I knew that man and he knew me. I could have made a big fuss, but I didn't. I kept quiet, planning my way out while he and that man slept together in secret. I only felt disgusted by my husband, nothing more. But my husband died in a way I never would have expected. He is now a martyr. When someone dies, all the sins of that person disappear. Because that's what even my family thinks. Those who knew about his affair and how he manipulated me are now talking about how good a man he was, and we shouldn't insult someone who's dead. Everyone around me talks about how beautiful our relationship was. His family talks about what a great man he was and how he always focused on giving everything to me and our kid. His affair partner hugged me at the funeral saying that my husband loved me. His friends told me what a great person he was. Everyone talks about how good but he was and how he is now an angel in heaven. And I have to pretend to be sad. The day he died I cried a lot but not out of sadness. I cried with relief and I felt free. It would have taken me too many years to save to pay for lawyers with my little store without him realizing that I was keeping money in secret. He would have kept everything. He would have made my life a hell, and I know it because he had told me so every time I stood for myself. But now I have the house, I have everything, I have the monthly money for being a widow, I have my children totally with me. I have started to become a psychologist. Everyone thinks that I do it to cope with my grief, but no, it is to overcome the abuse I suffered from him. It was really hard to pretend to be sad at the funeral, but I did it for my child. I did it because now everything is over and I'm free. If I made a fuss, my ex-mill would have done something so that I wouldn't keep anything. They were just like him. But now I'm just a sad widow who needs help in their eyes. The silly widow who didn't know anything, but that's helping me to be free and have what I deserve. Sorry for the bad English. I use the translator for many parts. Edit. We are not from an Islamic country and here same-sex couples can live and marry freely. He just cheated on me with a man like he cheated on me with a woman. I guess he was bisexual. Relevant comments. Organic 2003. I am stuck on his affair partner hugging you and telling you he loved you. She had the balls to show at the funeral. Damn, you have more control than I could have ever mustered. Cheers to a life full of fun and love. OOP, his affair partner was his football teammate and friend. He is a man. Thanks. PM_ME_happy_. Thinks your husband had an affair with a man? Or another woman? You have a child? Or children? OP. His first affair was with a woman, I think. The second with a man, of which I know, maybe he had others that I don't know. For privacy reasons I don't want to reveal the number of children, so I prefer to leave it at that. Update. It's been several weeks since I last posted and I didn't expect my post to end in other places. Honestly, I had totally forgotten that I posted here, but a few days ago the lover and friend of my ex-husband. I have started calling my deceased husband that way. I don't want to be eternally tied to the idea that he is still my husband even after death. Death did me the favor of separating us. Visited my house saying that he found my post. I didn't expect him to find this and it scared me a bit, but honestly there's nothing I can do about this anymore if someone has posted it elsewhere without asking me first. One of my sons let him in when I hadn't heard the doorbell, so I had no choice but to let him in to not make a drama in front of my kids, and I wanted to know what he was going to say. Once alone he told me that he knows that I know about him and my husband having an affair because of the post I sent to TikTok, although I never did any post on TikTok. That's why I think someone uploaded this there. He told me that my husband was not the best husband, but he was a great friend to everyone and a very hard-working man to everyone. That even his family misses him too much, and even though he had his mistakes in the past, that I should let go of the past and stop digging into it cause we're all better off like that. He was insisting for a while to such an extent that I felt intimidated by him to the point he reminded me of my husband, and it is the first time that I have that feeling with a man that is not my ex-husband. I can talk peacefully with them, but this situation made me feel on the verge of a panic attack because of his attitude. He's basically scared that I'll tell everything. He's gay and I don't know if he has a boyfriend, but maybe he does, and that's why he doesn't want me to say anything about their affair. I've been a submissive woman for years. My ex-husband turned me into a fearful woman that I wasn't before. He made me the kind of woman who was always going to put her head down, but when he died I felt so happy and liberated I cried with relief for days. And when this man came into my house to tell me what to do, it was like seeing my ex-husband again, giving me instructions about how to behave and what to do. The man who knows very well that I was in an abusive relationship because he knew how my ex was and chose to sleep with him anyways. The man my husband made me cook for and then fucked him as if I were just a maid was at my house telling me that my ex was a good person and that I should shut my mouth. He was telling me what to do and I just punched his face. To be honest, I wanted to slap him, but for some reason I felt so angry that I hit him, and it felt like hitting my husband too. I don't regret it and I felt good. I yelled at him and told him to leave or I was going to tell everyone what happened. He ended up leaving the house and he has been quiet since that day. My main plan was just to shut my mouth and let go of the past, but that is one thing, and a totally different thing is that this man comes and wants to impose on me what to do as if I were a doll. Maybe my reaction wasn't the best, but I'm tired of people telling me to shut up. I never managed to say anything to my husband, and that day I felt that I somehow did that. I haven't told anyone yet, nor do I think about doing so, but if he does something I won't hesitate twice before this time whether to make a TikTok or post on Facebook talking about everything. With the issue of the house, With the economic crisis, I am not sure that anyone can afford what a house like this is worth, but for now I have focused on finally being able to get a better job in the future, to be able to rent a house and be able to rent this house. That could be a really good way to have money. My other goal in the future is to buy a small piece of land, no matter how far it is. I want to have something that is my own and my children. My children don't miss their father too much, and I understand them. It has taken me a while to get them a child psychologist, but recently they started to go to their sessions and they are doing well. I also go to a psychologist. I think the best thing I've done is to start making excuses for my ex-MIL and my own family for not seeing them as often as before, and I've started the stage of cutting off contact little by little, making excuses with work or that we're not at home. Although I still have to let my ex-MIL come home from time to time, I think even my kids are happier when they see that my own mood is better. I doubt that many people are interested in this, but thank you for the messages I received. Although many do not understand that cultures and laws are different and buying a house or moving to the other side of a country in a month is impossible for many. Relevant comments. Llama_48,213. The audacity. He thinks you are still the maid. Good for you for showing your strength and sending him on his way. The nerve. I would strongly advise you to coach your children to not allow anyone in that house. Not just for AP if he returns. This includes the family you plan to distance yourself from. OOP. Yes, they know that they should not open the door to strangers, but they open the door to people they know because my ex-husband always sent them to open the door for him. I have begun to explain to them that they should not open the door to anyone without telling me first, and now I leave everything with a lock and key. My elderly mom's new friend gives me a bad vibe, prompting me to uncover hidden motives and protect her from potential financial harm. Original post. I cannot for the life of me figure out why I feel like this, but all of my spidey senses are tingling on this woman. Here's a bit of the background. My 40F elderly mom, 70F, has been ill for quite some time and is on hospice. She was living in an independent living place where it was all elderly people in apartment-type units. She has been living there for about 6 or 7 months and made a few casual old people friends, but mostly kept to herself, so I thought. A couple weeks ago my boys and I were visiting my mom. We live right down the street and visit often, when a woman walked up to us with my mom. I extended my hand to introduce myself to this woman when she dismissed the handshake and instead went in for a hug and said, "Oh, I only do hugs for family and we're pretty much family." Okay, a little weird coming from someone I've never met before, and also never even heard a single mention of her, but I pretty much brush it off thinking to myself that she's probably just really lonely or something. I asked my mom about this new friend and she just says that they met there at the old people place and she's been a really good friend to her. Great, I love when my mom has friends, it's important to have friends. But this woman just keeps giving me weird vibes and I can't pinpoint why. A few things that seem odd to me. My mom is moving to a more traditional apartment complex this weekend, and this new friend liked the new apartment complex so much that she decided to move to the same place as well. Her apartment isn't ready yet, but she'll be moving to the same complex as my mom next month. She apparently bought my mom's dog a "I have the world's best auntie" sweatshirt for Christmas. They had known each other for maybe 2 months at that point. She called the other day too, I don't really know why. I guess she gave me her phone number and more formally introduced herself to me. She talked about doing a lot of caretaking stuff for my mom. "Oh, I can manage her medications for her if you want." So I replied that while I appreciate the offer, there's a lot of controlled medications and hospice prefers to keep minimal people involved in the medicine stuff, and that taking on caretaking responsibilities for a friend can get exhausting, so it might be best for them to just focus on being friends rather than her wearing herself out trying to take care of her. She immediately went to my mom and made it sound like I was shit-talking my own mom, saying how she's just an exhausting person, blah blah. When I confronted my new friend about going to my mom and relaying our private conversation in a totally twisted way, the friend lied and said that my mom had grabbed her phone and read it all in the text messages. It was over the phone and not at all via text messages. When I pointed out there were no texts, she just kind of stumbled and I dropped it because I knew it wouldn't get anywhere. Every time I talk to my mom on the phone, I can hear this woman telling her what to say or adding comments in. And none of it is outwardly worrisome things, but it feels like I can't have any conversation with just my mom. I'm a very trusting person who generally tries to see the best in people. And this woman has not given me any concrete reasons to doubt her intentions and has in fact been very friendly and polite to me in all of our interactions. Nonetheless, I can't shake this feeling that there's something wrong here. I sat my mom down yesterday and had a conversation with her about my feelings towards this new friend, and she didn't get defensive at all but disagreed with me and said that her new friend is just being kind and offering to help with stuff because she knows my mom is not the most organized of people and could use the help. I begged my mom to please be cautious and to take the friendship slow and to keep it simply as a friendship and let me, her actual family, handle caretaking stuff. Despite no changes in medications, my mom has been more confused lately and comes across to me like she's overtaken medication, but I only give her one dose at a time and the rest is locked up at all times, so it isn't that. But just to be safe, since she's been more confused lately, I took my mom's credit and debit cards so no one can take advantage of her financially. Reddit, please help me figure out what this woman would have to gain in coming between my mom and I if it isn't medication or money. I don't know how to do a background search or if that's legal for any random person to do. But I did look this new friend up on a couple websites and all I learned from that is that she has a lot of also known as names, but I can't find anything else. I'll pay for a background search if anyone has a recommendation for good ones. We're in California. Does any of this raise any red flags to anyone else, or am I just being too overprotective of my mom on this? Oh, I almost forgot. I called one of my mom's oldest and closest friends the other day and asked her if she's met his new friend and if so, what her impression was. She said, honestly, I don't know why I feel like this, but I just get a bad feeling about her. I just feel like she's up to no good. Hearing this made me feel better in that I'm not the only one to pick up on something, but I don't know what, if anything, to do about it all. Update. Thank you so much for all of the responses and heartfelt advice. I'm so sorry to have been MIA for so long after I originally posted, but it's just been a lot. I needed to take a beat to take it all in and deal with the punches from real life that kept coming my way. Immediately after I posted last, I went to talk with my mom. I explained my concerns and she agreed to the 2 cameras I put up in her apartment. On moving day, I was out of the apartment for a few minutes taking my kids back to my house when I logged onto the camera app to test out the settings. I overheard my mom and the friend talking about me. It was not very nice and very much seemed like the friend was just teeing things up to come between my mom and I. My mom was playing right into it. The friend, I'll just call her Fran to make it easier, was gone when I got back to the apartment, but I got into it with my mom. I was crying, telling her how hurtful it is to hear my own mother participating in a negative conversation about me after everything I do and have done for her. She cried. I cried. It was awful. But at the end I had at least convinced her that Fran was up to no good. Mom agreed to create some distance between her and Fran, and she immediately told Fran that her behavior towards me was not going to fly any longer and all talk of anything to do with me was off limits. Fran seemed to understand and blamed her behavior towards me on some flimsy excuse that I didn't buy for a second. All was calm for a week or so when one morning I called my mom to check in on her only to find out she was with Fran out running errands. When I pushed for more information, I uncovered that Fran had taken my mom to the bank so that my mom could obtain a new debit card. Fran very much knew I had taken my mom's debit card, with my mom's blessing, because my mom was having episodes of increased confusion and wasn't aware of who or what she was spending money on, because my mom had forgotten she had given me her previous debit card. That was the final straw for me. That night I sent Fran the following text message. Hi Fran. Mom told me about you guys going to the bank today to get a card, and I just wanted to let you know that I know my mom appreciates your friendship, but that I do not appreciate your getting yourself involved in things you have no business being involved in. Mom and I have her finances under control between the two of us, and we do not need any assistance getting her squared away, no matter how well-meaning. She's asked me to take her card again, the new one, and has put me as the main account holder so I can be sure she has access to what she needs but that no one else does. I want to believe you're coming from a sincere place of just wanting to help my mom, but it complicates friendships greatly when you get into financial territory. I handle all of my mom's finances and medical stuff, and it's working for us that way. My mom very much appreciates having you as her friend, but she doesn't need a caretaker. I've got that covered. If you sincerely want to be her friend, you need to take 10 giant steps back and check yourself regarding how you're coming across to me. Because from my perspective, it very much looks like you are dancing precariously close to the elder abuse line, and I'm sure you wouldn't want me to get the authorities involved here, but that's exactly what will happen if things continue down this path. Fran responded with some BS reply akin to, oh my word, I would never take advantage of anyone and I just wanted to help your mom, blah blah blah. Oh, and I think you and I have gotten off on the wrong foot, daughter, which is my fault, but I'd like to start over again, more blah blah blah. I never replied to Fran further, and she has, shockingly, not really reached out to my mom since. I believe she is due to move into the apartment complex this weekend though, so we shall see if she pops back up out of the woodwork. I think she understands that I see through her attempts to come between my mom and I, and that she'll need to focus her efforts to scam people somewhere else. I notified my mom's hospice nurses and her social worker as well. I also bought a really super cool medication dispenser. I won't name it because I'm not plugging anything, but feel free to reach out to me if anyone has family members that they need some help managing medications for. It's expensive and probably cost prohibitive for a lot of folks, but it has been a game changer for me to keep my mom's medicine safe and organized, that is locked and syncs up to an app so I get notified every time it dispenses a medication. That made me feel much better about Fran not having any access whatsoever to my mom's prescriptions, but the trip to the bank showed me exactly what Fran was after. I notified the bank that if Fran is with my mom, they are to contact me immediately. All in all, I think most of you were correct. Fran was using my mom for money. Or she was trying to, but luckily I caught it before much damage was done. I think I've made my position on Fran clear to her, which is why she is staying away. I think I still need to contact the independent living facility about my concerns with Fran because, I swear I'm not making this is, my mom says that Fran is going to be working at the independent living facility after she moves out. And I don't want her to be in a position to take advantage of anyone else. Thank you again to everyone who replied and reached out to me with resources and/or advice. I read every reply and I actually read a number of them to my mom as well. It really helped her to see Fran for who she really is. New update second, hopefully final. Update September 30th, 2024. Thank you to those who keep checking in with me asking how my mom is doing and if there's any updates. Original post here first, update post here. My mom is still on hospice and doing okay all things considered. She has her good and her bad days, but she has been mostly lucid lately and I'm grateful for that. F has been mostly MIA, thank goodness, ever since I told her, in no uncertain terms, to beat it. The only time I have heard from her since was when my mom's phone wasn't working and F called me and left a message wanting to know if my mom was okay. I left her to read. So that told me that my mom hasn't cut her out completely, although she tells me she has. But I have, with my mom's blessing, taken control of any avenue F could possibly use to take advantage of my mother. I alerted the hospice nurses and social worker and I let F know that I had done that as well. My mom also finally made some better friends who live nearby and they also help keep an eye on her for me. I did not go to the police as I didn't feel I had a case to do so, but I did let F know I wouldn't hesitate to do so if given a reason. If F comes back around my mom or gives me any reason to think something is up, I'll update you all to let you know. But as of now, my mom is safe. I handle all her medication as well as her finances, so no one can weasel their way in to try to take anything at all away from my mom. Thank you to everyone for your care and concern. Relevant comments. Comment: they want her pills. OP. I thought the same thing, which is why I locked them up tight. My mom agreed to a camera right over her dispenser so we can keep eyes on her medications at all times. The machine I got her is pretty cool too and alerts me via text if the machine door is ever opened. Not that it could be because it has a passcode on it that even my mom doesn't know. So there's lots of safeguards in place to ensure no one gets into any of her stuff at all. I discovered my ex-wife was feeding our kids turpentine daily and had to fight to protect them, gain custody and help them heal from the trauma. May 1st, 2021 on r/relationship_advice. I found this out, like I do most things about life with their mother, through the kids, M7 and F5. As communication has been pretty much non-existent between the ex and I since our split 6 years ago. Before anyone jumps to conclusions, no, I don't ever press my kids for information. I've worked very hard to establish an uninhibited, open, no topic is off limits type of relationship with my kids. Even though I've only got them every other weekend, I want them to feel comfortable enough to fully express themselves and speak their mind freely around me. This has led to several discoveries about certain aspects of their life that their mother has asked them not to reveal to me, something I'm very much against. I don't believe any child should have to hold secrets between their parents. It isn't their responsibility and is something I would never ask of them. That being said, they've come out with nuggets of wisdom such as we shouldn't be drinking tap water because the government puts chemicals in there that makes us docile and obedient. Santa isn't real. But Jesus is and the Bible is 100% fact. Controversial topic, I understand. And most recently that the government says turpentine is poisonous but it is actually good for you. What the hell do I do here? If I speak to my ex about this, or even let slip that I know it's going on, she isn't going to have an honest conversation about it with me and I fear that she'll just press the kids even harder to keep things from me. I don't want their heads filled with this rubbish, but I feel so powerless to stop this. All I can do is try to teach them to think critically, but that is only going to be so effective when they're getting told all this nonsense is fact. Help. Edit. I spoke to my children about it and recorded the conversation to ensure there was no confusion about what was being said. They were being fed a spoonful of turpentine every day by their nana for the past 4 weeks while they were all away on holidays, but there is zero chance my ex wasn't aware this was happening. Definitely turpentine. 100% pure gum turpentine. My boy said the bottle read. The distilled stuff, he said. They even started singing that Mary Poppins song, "A spoonful of sugar helps the turpentine go down." Feel like I'm in an alternate timeline. Thank you everyone for being so helpful. I appreciate it so much. Edit. The talk screen won't be happening until we get a referral. Poisons Hotline has no literature on hand for chronic exposure to turpentine, let alone in children, but the kids don't seem symptomatic. We will be visiting either a GP or the hospital first thing tomorrow for a full checkup, and a report will be made separately to that of the medical mandatory report. I don't really see a scenario playing out where CPS isn't getting involved here, and I can't not have my kids medically assessed knowing that this has been going on. Currently preparing for the shitstorm that's bound to ensue. Comments. Deleted user. Sorry, but you found out your ex-wife is poisoning your kids and your response is to get on Reddit instead of taking your kids to the hospital and contacting authorities. Hopefully this is as fake as it seems. OOP, ex-wife. The kids seemed asymptomatic. Had I not been made aware of this, I probably would never have known anything was up. That being said, my mother is a nurse and we did have the kids looked at. Yes, I came to Reddit as one source among several for guidance because I had no *C king clue what to do about this or even what my options were. I try not to act rash or emotionally impulsive when it comes to my children. I try to weigh up my options. My father has a muddy history, so even though he's not the same person he was 15 years ago, a CPS investigation has potential to forcefully alienate my children from their grandparents. That's just one example of what factors into this. I wish this were fake. Deleted user. What the fuck? Asymptomatic? Dude, they've told you she's poisoning them. You should have immediately taken them to the hospital, regardless of whether you can see symptoms. I don't care if your mom is a nurse, she can't run tests by looking at them. Anyway, I still am not convinced this is real, but if it is, what you just said about your dad makes this all more confusing and sketchy. Take your kids to the hospital and seek legal help. OP, we spoke to the hospital man, we called ahead. There was literally nothing they were prepared to do for us other than what we had already done. They wouldn't run tests unless the kids were exhibiting symptoms or they had a referral, even after telling them what was going on. The nurse was very apologetic, but it is what it is. Best they could offer was a place 2 hours away that wouldn't open until tomorrow anyway. I know what you're saying, but it just isn't that simple. And yeah, I understand that seems sketchy. I guess it kind of is. There's no legal help I could possibly get on a Sunday evening and no way we could move things forward without rushing into it. We are going through everything tomorrow, properly and thoughtfully. Fast walking short guy, Jesus Christ. Record some evidence, send it to the cops, and have your ex imprisoned for child endangerment at the very least. This type of potato is going to start feeding them fucking bleach or urine sooner than later, not even joking. She is a dangerous level of stupid that your kids should not be forced to suffer. It is your responsibility to take action to protect them from her. OOP. Unfortunately, the only evidence I have is a second-hand verbal account of the testimony of a 7-year-old boy. He told my mother, his grandmother, who is a career nurse, who promptly told me what was going on. She's 50 shades deep into crazy conspiracy theories herself, and even she was mortified upon hearing this. My ex won't say or admit to anything, and I don't trust her to be honest if her custody arrangement is on the line. It's all just conjecture at this point. Fast walking short guy, hire a private eye. Get evidence. It's your responsibility as a parent to protect your children. You can't be so passive. Do something. OOP. I agree, it is my responsibility. I have zero intention of being passive about this. I just see my current options hitting a lot of dead ends. That's why I've come here. If I'm going to go the legal route, I want to move it through clean. Calculated. No room for error. He said, she said BS won't even get me a seat in the courtroom. Private investigator could be something worth following up though. Thank you. Fish guts cake. Those poor kids. Good idea picking this idiot to mate with. OP. Yeah, look, I've got no good defense for that. Changed a lot after she got her ring though. There's a reason I'm not still with her. May 2nd, 2021 on ER Legal Advice and ROS Legal. So I just found out through my kids that my ex-wife has been feeding them turpentine mixed with sugar or honey as a way to warm them, and also been using it topically to treat mosquito bites. They are 7M and 5F, reading up on what it does if you ingest it, because who the hell would ever think it's a good idea to drink paint thinner as medicine? It can be devastating, and it really doesn't take a whole lot to mess you up, especially if you're a child. Think, 1 tablespoon could potentially be enough to change your life. I don't think talking to the ex is going to yield any results, and realistically I don't even expect her to be honest about it anyway. My only evidence so far is the second-hand account of the testimony of a 7-year-old boy. He told my mom his grandma and she went and told me. Do I have any legal options here? Should I be collecting evidence and if so, what kind? I honestly don't know what to do. I can't have my kids being fed literal poison, and to top it off they were saying, yeah, the government tells us it's poison but it's actually good for you. This isn't the first time they've come out with little nuggets of conspiracy-soaked wisdom like this, tap water makes you docile and obedient sort of stuff, but this one is truly terrifying. They were meant to go back to their mother today, but I've got them in my care until next weekend due to an undisclosed emergency that my ex sprung on me about an hour ago. Never mind that I'm starting a new job tomorrow and wasn't prepared in any way to look after them for a week with no notice, but please, if anyone here can give me a few tips or pointers, I would be so grateful. I'm stressing pretty bad about this. I don't know what to do. Edit, I'm located in Victoria, Australia, if that makes any difference to the situation. May 2nd, 2021 on RR Ask Docs. So for the last 4 or so weeks my kids, 7M and 5F, have been ingesting a spoonful of turpentine every day, and been using it topically to treat mosquito bites. 100% gum turpentine. My boy said the bottle read, paint thinner. I've questioned them about it and I have zero doubt this was happening. Now I've wanted to book in for a tox screen and blood work but would have to travel 2 hours to get it done, the only other option being police and CPS, both unfavorable options, or seeing a GP. What am I in for here? What damage would chronic ingestion of turpentine cause a 7-yo or 5-yo child? What are the things I should look out for? Would terps even show up in a screen in such a small volume? And if there's anyone here from Victoria, Australia, would a GP be able to help initiate a tox screen? May 2nd, 2021 on AITA Toxicology. The contents of this post were not able to be recovered. However, this comment was deemed relevant, as it has information about turpentine therapy. Solomon Gilbert, MOD. I'm sorry to hear of this happening. Usually, we wouldn't allow medical advice requests, but this is an exception. Turpentine has been touted as an alternative medicine cure-all, as has been amplified by misinformation on the internet. Please seek immediate medical assistance from a trained healthcare professional and take any discussions surrounding medical advice here with an enormous pinch of salt. That said, this subject is very important to discuss and could help others who may have come across similar cases. OOP, my apologies. I will admit I didn't carefully look through the rules of this sub before posting. I did stumble across this particular school of thought this evening, unfortunately, whilst researching the effects of turpentine ingestion. It saddens me to learn of its existence, but honestly I'm not as surprised nor shocked as I feel I should be. Understandably, advice from strangers on the internet will never be a credible substitute for a trained professional opinion. Sorry guys. But I do appreciate your concern and the willingness of those who helped. Thank you. May 3rd, 2021 in a comment on the Ask Docs post. Update on the situation. The kids have been medically assessed. They've had blood work done, testing for liver and kidney function, as well as any other abnormalities, and have undergone some minor testing. Thankfully, everything has come back clear and they seem to be happy and in good health, apart from my daughter being a little upset about being jabbed with needles. There were, however, some very concerning statements made by my kids to the doctors who screened them, both with and without any family present. Everything said has been transcribed and documented in their discharge papers. CPS has since been informed of the situation. The situation has been reported to the police and a medical release statement has been filed with them. They told me they would remain in contact with CPS and wait for their lead. The kids are legally staying within the care of myself and my family until further notice from Child Services. At this point in time, I've had no contact with my ex since this all came about. I have a tip on a great family law legal representative whom I will contact in the very near future to discuss my steps moving forward, and about making a claim for primary custodial care. My family fully supports this decision and we are all still incredibly shocked about this whole scenario. I am on the verge of having an absolute meltdown, but things actually seem okay for now. My kids are safe. I couldn't be more grateful for how supportive my family and friends have been over the last couple of days. Thank you to everyone who gave me their advice and support. I appreciate every one of you. Please do not feed your children turpentine. UDG. I can pretty much guarantee that if you're buying bottles labeled 100% pure gum spirits, or whatever, they look like this rather than this, and the warning label basically comes with a wink and a nod for free OOP. Actually it looked like this. Literally has poison impressed down the side of the plastic bottle, complete with all the expected warning labels. Straight from the paint section at Bunnings. Update as of September 2023, September 22nd, 2023 on his profile, 2 years after the original posts, 2 days after the Boru post. Just an update on things since everything went down and maybe provide a little clarity on a few key details. Not that it's necessary to me that you believe my story, Reddit being what it is and all, but bear with me as I haven't really spoken about the topic with anyone outside of my partner in a very, very long time. There will be a few additional details that won't be mentioned for discretionary reasons and active actions currently in place. Not very brief. Sorry. I'll start by stating that the kids have been in my full care since that first post and are very happy and healthy. The mother has placed the entirety of blame on the grandmother and remains steadfast in that stance to this very day. The month prior to my post they spent camping as a family, the kids and their mum's immediate family. They spent that entire time in her care and there is no way she wasn't privy to what was happening. Every goddamn day. The kids had a fucking song to sing about it. All substantiated in statements taken from them. So as a few have speculated, yes, this happened in regional Victoria. A couple hours from Melbourne. The hospital here could have taken the kids in for screening through ER but they didn't have the facilities to actually test the blood work on site. The turnaround for a result I was told would have been a few days, possibly longer, as it had to get sent off. Alternatively, I could just wait until the following day to make the trip to the nearest facility that was capable of producing same-day results. We took that option. The kids were triaged the following day through ER. Tested for organ functionality, blood work came back clean. They were privately spoken to and assessed by on-site well-being officers, or whatever their title, and CPS was contacted through the hospital and a case opened. Note, yes, we do call them child protection here even though they operate under the DFFH banner. But so does Community Housing and Disability Support, in tangent with NDIS, so do with that information as you will. It's a broad department. We left with the medical reports which included statements given by the children and holy fuck where they were being fed some wild facts about the world. That night I made an informal statement at the local police station stating what the situation was and the actions taken, just so they had it on record. For those tracking the chronology of all this, we are roughly 30 HRS into the timeline from me first finding out. CPS conducted several interviews over the next month with all parties involved as well as a house call to my residence. Not sure how extensively they interviewed the mum. They concluded the children unfit to be in the mother's care but were comfortable in closing their case should they remain with me full time. Surprisingly, there was no legal order put in place. Apparently they are happy to move on from a situation once comfortable with the results. Found a good law firm and started the legal process, which has been very slow due to a, unsurprising, lack of cooperation. Essentially though, we have restricted the mother's access to supervised visitation and removed her parental right as a legal actor regarding medical decisions. She has only seen them a handful of times in the 2 years following despite constant efforts to facilitate visitation. The kids have had therapy and I've spent many hours talking to them over the last 2 years helping them navigate their way through this. They'll have a lot of questions they'll expect answers for when they're older, I'm sure. Currently, we have managed to secure scheduled visitation with the mother through a professional contact center which facilitates supervised visits. It has been a fucking wild ride but we are incredibly lucky and happy to have the strong family unit we currently do, including my partner and her daughter who have been next to us through most of this process. Please teach your kids it's safe to be honest and open with you. I ended my relationship after my ex secretly bought an $87K truck, and now he has also returned it. I'm very annoyed. He didn't even speak to me about it. We had so many discussions about moving in together, getting married, and then he goes and purchases a truck $2K more than his yearly salary. If you're asking how a truck can be $87K, that's the price you get when you put every addition you want on it. He showed me the truck expecting me to be excited and I was livid. When he bought this truck, we were only a month from moving in together. We got into a bad argument where he told me it was his money and he could do whatever he wanted with it. So I said fine and I told him I'm not comfortable moving in with him anymore. I asked my landlord if my apartment was still available and if I could renew my lease and they said yes. Now my BF is saying he can't afford his place and his truck. I don't feel bad. You should have thought of that before buying something so expensive without talking to your GF of 2 years. I have had some of his friends' GF reach out to me and say I should support him, and one even says that I'm not loyal and this shows I wouldn't support him if we were married since I run away when finances get bad. That's bullshit. He didn't lose his job or get hurt. He bought an expensive item without discussing it. I have been trying to get him to return the truck because it's already affecting his finances badly. He has only had this truck for 2 weeks and he is worried that in the next month or two, he won't be able to cover all the expenses he usually has. This past weekend, we had another argument and I think our relationship is going to end. I'm not helping him pay for this truck and I'm not moving in with him. I have asked for a break and will be thinking about what to do. Edit. I appreciate the different opinions everyone has given me. I have a lot to think about. To answer 2 questions, no, he doesn't need the truck. He works from home, and if he has to check in at work, he has an office. Also, his friends and their girlfriends know about this issue because he asked for their views when we went to a get-together last week. Only 2 GFS reached out to me to tell me I wasn't being supportive. The others have minded their business. Comments. Comment 1. Good job recognizing a bad situation when you see one. This dude fully expected you to supplement his lifestyle after moving in together. All his money would have gone to paying that truck, leaving you stuck with the lion's share of the bills. And that's why he's panicking now. Stay in your own apartment, OP. Comment 2. And he had the audacity to say that it was his money and he could do what he wanted with it, knowing full well he would have to live out of the truck if OP didn't supplement for him. Really tells you what he thinks about OP's money, that it's his money too. Entitled ass. I would dump him so hard. Comment 3. Reeks of my money is mine but your money is ours. Dump any moron who spends $1,700 a month on a 5-year loan for a toy while being unable to make rent. Update. 6 days later. Yay, so I broke up with him mainly because I realized we aren't financially compatible. Before I go into what happened, I do want to say something. I understand we weren't married, but we were both moving together into a new place and had several discussions about this move and our plans for the future, including marriage. For the people private messaging me saying it's his money and he can do whatever he wants, or, you're only 2 years into a relationship, you're not a wife. I know that, and I have never asked what is in his bank account or told him what to do financially. I'm aware it is his money, but I also know his financial situation and he was making decisions without my input that, if we were to stay together, would not only affect him but also our relationship and our financial situation for years to come. I will die on this hill. This is not okay, and if it's okay for you, that's fine, but for me, if we make a financial plan and you make a huge decision without me, I won't be okay with it, and that's a big reason why I backed out of moving into a new apartment with him. I would have never made a decision like this without his input at all. The main reason why we decided to move in together was to take the next step in our relationship but also to pay down our debts. I now have $22,000 debt from student loans and a car. When I met him though, it was around $60,000 and I was basically living on credit cards. Within the first couple of months of us dating, I saw how hard he worked, and with a salary of $85,000, he was making huge progress in paying off his loans and credit cards. On my end at the time, I was only making $50,000. I honestly saw his work ethic and was like wow, and got serious about my debt. I got a second part-time job where I was making $32,000 a year, bringing my salary to $82,000. I did that so that I could pay off my debts faster, but also so that we could be on equal footing when we moved in together and he didn't have to pay significantly more in living expenses than me when he had more debt. We did a complete budget months before we moved in together and realized that we would each have $700 extra a month to put towards our own individual budgets. This is why the purchase of this truck was so surprising to me. We had planned this move for months. We had a budget and he destroyed that plan with the truck. If he wanted a new car, there are plenty of cars he could have gotten that would have fit into the $700 monthly surplus he had. Anyway, for the past few days before we broke up, he tried to show me that this truck was a good financial purchase and we could still move in together. He told me that he had actually budgeted for this and could show me how he could afford this. I wanted to hear him out, so I went to his place and he had 2 budgets. He said he had been thinking of getting this truck for some time and he had worked out a budget beforehand. He showed me the first budget, and after his truck, insurance, expenses, and his debts, he was left with $115 for the month. I noticed with the first budget, he didn't include groceries, his hobbies, going out, or even gas for his car. I asked him how $115 was enough to live off of for an entire month. I asked him how he could afford all of this and his truck, and if he planned to give up some things. He said no, he didn't plan to give up anything and that he could make everything work in his budget. I asked him what if he had an emergency or needed gas for his truck, and he just kept saying he would work it out without explaining how. After I saw the first budget, I asked to see the documents for the car, and that's how I found out the truck price was $95,000 total after taxes, registration and fees. He traded in his reliable 2003 Toyota and all his savings to get a loan at 14% for 72 months. His monthly payment is now $1,966 and insurance is $573. He also still has student loans which are significant. I kept telling him $115 left over monthly wasn't enough. That's when he showed me his second budget, which had a combined higher monthly income. I asked him if he was getting a second job, and he said due to his job relying on him to be on call, he couldn't. I asked where the income was coming from, and this man said, "Well, you're getting a raise soon." I froze because I had mentioned this raise once months ago. My first job is my career job and I work in a field where when you hit certain milestones, you get a pay bump. In September, if my raise is approved, I will go from 50K to 80K, and with my second job, my total yearly income will be 112K. But getting the raise isn't a guarantee. You have to meet certain criteria, and if you don't, you have to wait 3 months before trying again. When he said that, I was quiet and then I said, "So you planned a budget that included additional income that I wouldn't get for at least 6 months and income that I might not even get in September?" He said when I got my raise, the ratio of what he would pay would decrease and he would have more disposable income. I asked him why it was okay for him to plan budgets with my income but yet I had no say in how he spent his. He couldn't answer that. I told him I had no issue with paying more bills if I got a raise, but the fact that he banked on that, didn't discuss it, and now expects me to be okay with this is ridiculous. I also said there's no way I wouldn't be paying more with the first budget because he wouldn't have been able to survive on $115. I told him he didn't communicate and this is on him because he made huge financial plans without discussing anything. Finally, I told him I would never have done any of this without going to him first because I thought we were a team that was building something. I ended things the next day and he has been trying to reach out but I'm not interested. He has financially crippled himself with this truck. If with my income now he could barely make it, he sure isn't making it on his own. I really hope that things work out for him and he is able to keep his truck and recover, but I'm not paying the consequences for such a massive financial mistake that is going to hugely affect him for years to come. If I were to stay, this financial decision affects me as well and would continue to affect both of us for years. Again, this is different from becoming ill or losing a job. He chose this and refuses to budge and fix it. I now realize we are not financially compatible and that's okay and I wish him the best. Edit. Thanks everyone for all the support. I don't hate my ex and I really hope he's able to recover from this. It was such a learning lesson for me in how one mistake can ruin you financially. It has made me even more cautious but also determined to keep working towards a better financial future for myself. Comments. Comment 1, you are very smart. I have a wife like you and we are going to retire comfortably because of that. Comment 2, people who will give her grief over this either have no idea how marriage is supposed to work or are bad with their finances. Financial incompatibility is a huge deal in relationships, and she is being incredibly mature here. Comment 3. All I have to ask is, how are you handling this with so much grace? I would be pissed if my ex, who I was so emotionally invested in, pulled this on me. It's not just that he made an irresponsible decision, it's the fact that he thought he could leech off you and your money to pay for it and somehow blindside you to get away with that. You don't badmouth him a single time and did the right thing immediately, break up, and have already accepted that you both are incompatible. I'm in awe of how decisive and yet non-aggressive you were. I wish I could be that way. OP, to answer your question about why I'm not bad-mouthing him, it's because I'm sad. I'm sad about what he did to himself and that I had to leave because he isn't seeing how bad this is. I'm sad that just a few months ago, I was planning on living together in a life and now that's gone. Most of all, I'm sad for him. He was doing so well and he rubbed off on me immensely in terms of paying off debt and watching your spending. I'm sad that he threw away all his hard work. Dumping on him even more isn't worth it because when he realizes this mistake, it will be so bad for him. I don't see a point to do it, but I'm not judging anyone who would in these circumstances. New update. 7 months later. Update. I posted a few months ago about ending my relationship with my ex who bought an $87K truck without telling me. Going ahead with that decision means that I paid off my student loans this past month. He also returned the truck. Hi everyone. So I posted a few months about a situation I was dealing with my ex and him buying a car without telling me. I really doubted myself when I first made my first post because I had received such strong negative reactions from other people about me wanting to back out of the move. I appreciate the comments I got not only on the posts but through the messages as well. It really helped solidify for me that these feelings I had about the situation shouldn't be ignored. So thank you guys for responding because it saved me financially. Looking back at the situation now months later, I can see that I was being set up to be financially abused. When I broke up with my ex, I thought that we were financially incompatible and that unfortunately it took this large purchase to see it. But I can see now, that's not the case. My ex made a plan in his head and what made sense to him was for me to pay most of the expenses and he thought this was okay and that I should be okay with it too. Even though I can see the reality of what he was trying to do, I can't hate my ex because he helped start me on this path of looking at my finances. I remember when we first started dating and I went to pay for an item I was getting and my card declined, and without batting an eye, even though it was a little embarrassing, I took out another card and paid. I was used to this happening every once in a while, because I was literally living paycheck up to paycheck. I'm not putting down anyone where that's the case. But in my situation then, I was living way above my means. I would justify every single want and get it, and I thought because I was making minimum payments and on time, I wasn't as bad as the next person. When the situation with my card happened, after we got back to my ex's car, he kindly asked if this type of thing happens all the time, and I told him sometimes, and he basically gave me advice. He did not try to force me to stop spending. He asked me to track my purchases and recommended a few apps. The first 2 months that we were seeing each other, he would encourage me every other day or every once in a while to just track what I spent, to shop like I usually did, but to track everything. Being able to see how much I was spending, especially when I broke it down into categories, was astounding. There was one month I spent $68 on bagels. It wasn't for work. It wasn't for other people. It was me stopping at a bagel place every morning and getting a bagel. I would sometimes get variations, which is why the bagels cost so much. Once I realized how much I was spending on stupid things, my ex helped me make a plan that would work for me, and that plan has continued to consistently work. I have added to it and changed things or tweaked things as my financial status has continued to improve, and so far, so good. This is why I don't have any bad feelings about my ex. He never pushed for me to pay my bills in front of him. He never saw credit card statements on apps, nothing. He only kept encouraging me to look at my finances and fix them. He helped give me the foundation to start to manage my finances, and I thought in my head that we were on the same page. And because he was such a stickler for finances and he was so frugal, that is why this truck purchase was such a surprise to me. It was unplanned, not discussed, was a large amount of money, and, just knowing the general view of how much debt he had, I know without a doubt that there was no way he could afford this truck. I'm not trying to paint my ex as a saint. I am explaining why he had such a positive impact on me financially. So when the truck purchase happened, and he refused to budge, I honestly was shocked, and seeing how bad this situation was, I had to walk away. It's been about 6 months since everything's happened, and I'm doing very well. I recently paid off my student loans last month. I now only have my car left, so 12 grand left to pay. I also have a small savings. Because of that, I have changed the focus, and I'm putting the majority of my income now towards my car. I'm not rich by any means, but I'm definitely living within my means, and I'm okay with that. The last 2 things I'm updating on are my raise and my ex's truck. I had a few people message me about the raise, and unfortunately I did not get it due to a big mistake I made on a project. Once I realized the mistake, I knew that it would jeopardize things for my raise because I had made the mistake so close to my evaluation and I didn't get the raise. But I fixed the mistake, and when I get re-evaluated after 3 months, I am hopeful I will get it this time. Losing the possibility of the raise made me realize even more that I had made the right decision, because I would be so screwed right now if I hadn't ended my relationship. With my ex, we have spoken once, and that is when we broke up. I cut communication completely, because he was still trying to fix things without addressing the truck and the fact that he was keeping it. I know from a person close to him that actually 4 months after we broke up, he did a voluntary repossession. I also know the truck is gone, because he deleted all the pictures he had of it. I was actually relieved to hear that for him, because he can hopefully start to fix the situation he got himself in. I really do want the best for my ex, and I don't know the thought process that led to him getting this truck, or what could have influenced him, but hopefully he can get back to where he was and make more improvements. The relationship is finished and there is no hope of rekindling anything. Even though he returned the truck, I could never go back to him because the trust is gone. It wasn't only the money. It was also him making such a vital decision without me, expecting me to go along with it, and then vilifying me when I had viable concerns. I can't move past that. Yes, money isn't everything, but I can't stop thinking about what my life would be like now had I stayed. My student loans would not be paid off. We would both be broke. We would both be in worse off financial positions. All of these things would have affected the relationship negatively, which would have made it unhealthy. I'm glad we broke up, and I have forgiven him for what he tried to do to me. I stand, and I will continue to stand by the view that finances are a breakable offense, especially when your partner isn't listening to you and does something that will affect both of you. If you don't agree, that's fine, but these last few months have proved that to me. So that's my longish update. And again, I really want to say thank you guys for responding to my first post. I honestly was leaning towards staying with him and not moving in, and I think in the long run, I would have been financially devastated and taken advantage right now, and because of the different opinions I read, it made me realize how bad not only the situation was, but also how bad it could get. So thanks. A very, 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 very small, humble brag. I posted my paid in full student loan email on my profile, so if you want to see that, you can click that post, but you don't have to. Sorry, I'm just so proud of that fact. Okay, bye. Comments. Comment 1. Congratulations on paying off your loans. Glad you stuck to your decision and things working out for you. Comment 2. I can tell you what motivated or was the catalyst for his decision to buy the truck. It was you mentioning your possible raise. He always wanted the truck, but learning you'd be making more, he jumped the gun and purchased it in advance. He was betting on the raise. He didn't think of the possibility that you wouldn't get it. He thought it was a guarantee. Honestly, be glad he did it when he did. Could you imagine if he waited until you did move in together? Then you'd be more trapped due to having signed a lease with him. He would have screwed your credit, even if you couldn't help him pay for the truck. Having your name on the lease and him not paying his portion would affect you. He also would have guilted you into helping by paying more even if you still only made the same amount because he'd be struggling. I couldn't imagine if you had gotten the raise, he'd probably guilt you into keeping your second job, because then you could help him more. Glad you stuck to your decision. I get it's his money to do with as he wishes. However, he seemed to think, as did those who sided with him, that your money was his too. That he could make decisions about your money and how it was spent, but you couldn't do the same. Honestly too, you didn't try to control his decision or his money. You were controlling what happened to your money. Am I the asshole for purposefully ordering meat items so I don't have to share with my vegetarian friend? I have a friend who is a vegetarian and very entitled. She believes that her money is hers, and my money is ours. I love sharing food with friends. I eat almost exclusively family style, but I hate sharing food with this friend because she doesn't share food with me. To avoid confrontation, I have started exclusively ordering meat items whenever we eat together. Recently, we went out to eat and I ordered chili cheese fries and I added steak. My friend interjected and asked if we could get the steak on the side so we could share. The waiter was like, sure, and I kind of just stared blankly, silently fuming. But then when the fries came, I immediately dumped all the steak on the fries and started mixing. She was like, wait, and I said, oh, oops, sorry, and continued eating. She said she would have ordered more food if we weren't sharing, and I said, well then order it. But she didn't because she was trying to save money. She ate her sad salad and kind of passive-aggressively said, man, I wish I had some fries with this too. I ignored the tone and just responded cheerily, you should get some, they're good. Hopefully she gets the hint soon. Edited. Okay, I'm sick of saying this, but this person does not respond well to criticism. Friends have tried and failed to bring up issues about money with this person before. It does not end well. I am prioritizing my own mental health over being mature and doing the right thing. Go watch an after-school special. How do I add a flare? No more advice, Pulez. This is event-relevant comments. Comment. Genuine question. Has anyone ever expressed that it annoys them when she does this? Sometimes people don't realize they're being annoying. If you haven't already, I would try to set the boundary that you don't mind sharing food if she also shares food. Tell her that you understand she needs to save money, but that it doesn't mean that you can afford her to keep eating your food too. If she doesn't take it well, that's a sign to distance yourself. If she apologizes and works on it, it could be genuine ignorance. OOP. Yes, there have been multiple attempts at boundary setting in the past, all the way from when we were little. That is when I learned that most people would rather keep the peace by placating the dramatic person rather than hold the dramatic person accountable. She is manipulative. There was a whole issue at prom where she didn't pay her share for the limo. The kid who did would not let her on. She cried. The kid's parents felt bad and covered for her, made the kid apologize. She always has a sob story. She's always the victim. I have even offered her to apply for a job in the past where I work, as a busser, because I too thought she just needed help. BC again, she's manipulative. Before my eyes were opened. She said to my face, I could never bus tables. Is there a host position open? This isn't her only thing. She is manipulative and selfish in every single way. Some people see it, some people don't, and until everyone sees it, I'm not going to be the hero that calls her out on it. Update. My post blew up and lots of people asked for an update. Nothing too interesting happened until last week, so here it goes. TLDR of last post. Mooch, vegetarian friend who likes to steal food but doesn't like to share, keeps stealing my food, so I purposefully order meat items to not share. Update. Long story short, I'm no longer friends with Mooch. Another instance happened that was the catalyst for me, but I didn't make a dramatic show of anything. I just slowly stopped going on outings where Mooch was invited. All of my friends seemed to think Mooch isn't that bad, so they weren't really wanting to ice her out for me, which is totally understandable. But unfortunately I stopped hanging out with most of my friends. That is until last week. My friends had planned a short spring break trip to Mexico. I didn't go because Mooch was invited. I even warned them that Mooch was going to make it miserable, but no one listened to me. And shocker to everyone except for me, the trip was awful. She didn't pay for a single thing. She still owes people her portion of the Airbnb and gas money for the drive. Additionally, she had a sour mood anytime plans didn't go her way. Example, group wants to go to the markets, Mooch wants to go to rent a boat, majority rules they go to market, Mooch has a giant frown and makes sure everyone is aware she is having a bad time. One night, everyone went clubbing. She got tired and wanted to go home. No one wanted to go with her. She was waiting around with her giant frown, clearly wanting someone to leave with her so she didn't have to pay for the Uber. She finally orders an Uber for herself. After the Uber arrives, two girls decide they are actually tired too, so they take the Uber with her. She had the audacity to Venmo request them money for the Uber after having not paid for anything else the entire trip. And one of the girls she Venmo requests was the one that paid for the Airbnb that she still had not paid her back for. For the record, everyone else took turns paying for Ubers. No one Venmo requested each other for that. This was the first and only Uber Mooch ever paid for. That girl immediately starts a group chat with a couple of people on the trip and me with my favorite thing to hear, "OMG OP, you were right." Then I got to sit back and just watch as everyone vomited to me about everything terrible that happened on the trip. So it sounds like these 5 people plus me are done with her. Not sure how the rest of the group feels, but at least I have 5 people I can hang out with regularly again. Top comments. Comment 1. Clearly you've never had a long-term toxic friend or relationship before, because you'd know how hard these habits are to break. They've known each other since childhood and it's hard to set boundaries with someone like this when they are repeatedly broken. Plus she never said that not going on that trip made her miserable. Quite the opposite actually. Also, did you ever consider that OP might be the one with money problems? Maybe, just maybe, she doesn't want to hang out with someone who thinks OP's money is also hers. OP. It's not even the money problems, even though yes, that's at the forefront. It's that she expects everyone to serve her and cater to her feelings all the time. She wants final decision making for all activities while not paying. It's the fact that I have to drive her everywhere, but I'm also not allowed to leave until she's ready. Like fuck, if not wanting to spend time with her makes me mean, I'd rather be mean than continue being a doormat. Comment 2. Karma is a dish best served with meat if you asked me. I'm glad they all woke up. I hope she's lonely with her sad salads. The incident that made OOP cut off the friendship thanks to you/yes go away for finding this comment. I was her ride to a group activity. Right before I was about to leave, my mom decided to pick a fight with me about my room being a mess. When my mom and I fight, she can be kind of mean, so I was sobbing. And my friends know this. I texted my friends that I couldn't come anymore because my mom grounded me. Mooch said, "But you were my ride." And I asked the group if someone else can pick her up. Everyone else lives kind of far and no one wants to go out of their way to pick Mooch up. She calls me and asks that if I can't come hang out, can I at least come pick her up, drop her off at the hangout location and then pick her up again at the end of the night. She even said, "I feel like your mom would understand you made the commitment to drive me." I just said no, and to her credit she accepted it and then ended with, "Well, that sucks, I hope you feel better." BC, she can tell I've been crying. That was just the final straw for me. After 12 years together, my fiance's ex-fling sends a bizarre package, stirring up old wounds, passive-aggressive friends and fresh drama. Original post, first post ever, woo, mandatory apologies for my English. Details and places muddled, just in case. Well, the title says it all. My fiance, Oliver, and I have been together for 12 years, stuck together through thick and thin. LDR, the usual problems of a couple starting off very young, etc. In the last few years, he has been struggling a lot with depression, anxiety, but he is slowly getting better. At some point in our LDR we were living in 2 separate countries, and during his stay he became very good friends with 2 other people, Ben and Sarah. The 3 of them bonded through shared experiences, same mental health issues, etc. At some point he came back, we started living together, eventually became engaged, we decided on a long engagement 2+ years, since we were both settled on long academic paths. Our relationship, that had at some points been turbulent, settled very well as we both acquired maturity and got to really know each other during our daily lives. Things were peachy. 3 years ago, Sarah moved closer to where we lived, for a 2-year stay. We were all good friends, everything good, etc. Long story short, my fiancé cheated on me with her, short before she left the country, an emotional affair included. Found it by snooping, bad on me. I was devastated. I cut contact with her immediately, demanded him to do the same, and almost broke up with him. We were separated for 2 months. It was rough because at that time I had no access to therapy or counseling, and I was really far away from home, But my friends were kick-ass and supported me emotionally all that time. After these 2 months and a lot of soul-searching, we took the first tentative steps to be together again. It took me a long time to forgive him and to recover my trust in him, but little by little we healed and we made it work again. This was 2 years ago, and things are really good. Ben did not take the news of their separation too kindly, and he has been passive-aggressive to Oliver about him not talking to Sarah. Oliver has reacted well, and has been adamant about not contacting him again. 2 weeks ago, Ben told fiancé that he had given our new address to Sarah, because she wanted to send us a package with stuff belonging to Oliver. He says that she has nothing of him, and I believe it. They have never lived together, most of their friendship they have been living in different places. He has been really anxious about all this matter, he does not want any contact with her. I personally do not care about her, but he is dreading the day the package arrives. If it comes when I'm in the house, I will just throw it away, but I do not want him to receive it and get an anxiety attack. So, relationships, what is your advice? I know I do not have to protect my fiancé from this stuff, but he is hurting and I do want to support him. I do not think it is compromising material, because I already found the compromising material. Well, I think it is a passive-aggressive way of reminding us of her existence. And what shall we do with his friend Ben? TL.dr. 2 years ago, my fiancé cheated. After some time, I took him back and we are strong now, but the other girl is sending us a mystery package. Fiancé is not taking it well. OOP added more info in the comments. Hi everybody. Oh my, this blew up. Thank you for all the good advice, it has been really helpful to clear my thoughts. I left out some details that might be relevant, here they are. I do not think the package contains proof or details I still do not know. When she was living in the same country as us, she was still 600 kilometers away, so there were not really any chances to meet without me knowing. I know when it happened. Later, she moved to another continent. At that time I demanded 1, access to all his accounts, he complied, and 2, that he blocked her everywhere. He did it too and I believe him, because when she actually tried to contact us later, about Ben, I will elaborate later, she had to do it through common friends. His anxious reaction does not surprise me, he used to have very serious issues with social anxiety, to the point of being paralyzed about any kind of unpleasant interaction. He has been working on his mental issues, got in therapy and meds, etc., and now is much better. He reacted maturely to the latest developments, he told me immediately, and he understands that it is his mess to clean, but he suffered. Today I picked up a huge package, taller than a person, from a neighbor, and when he went through the door and when he saw it he really tensed up. Okay, that was kind of funny in a fucked up way. This might be pretty relevant too, but I kind of understated Ben's reaction. He did not take well at all, his 2 best friends not talking anymore. As I said, the 3 of them were a very close group, but he in particular had a magical vision of the trio, being friends forever. He was into Sarah a lot, and spent hours talking to my fiancé about how much he loved her. I have the feeling that Ben is into my fiancé as well. When my fiancé told him that he and Sarah did not talk anymore, and why, Ben seemed to take it okay, but 2 weeks later he contacted her to say he was about to self-harm, that's why she contacted us. We contacted Ben's family, he was okay. Fiancé set boundaries with him but did not cut him off completely. I am starting to think that Ben's reason to give her our address is his particular way of punishing my fiancé for leaving the magical trio. My personal feelings, all this drama has been annoying AF. The general advice of relationships seems to be to cut off Ben, and I think it is spot on. I will tell Oliver that I think it is the best idea, he is on the fence about it. About the cursed package, personally, I lean towards throwing it away without opening. I do not want to have anything to do with that dweeb. However, you are right, it is not my decision to make. If when it comes, I will offer him the choice either to throw it away or to go through the contents together and probably toss them away afterwards. Thank you. Update. So, I know this is ancient history, but we got an update, and I have several private messages asking me for an update if something happened. So yes, we got the package, last week. And it did not disappoint. Editor's note, OOP recapped the first post, I edited it out. After reading the advice here, I sat down with him, we decided we did not want the fucking thing, so he wrote a message to Ben saying tell Sarah we do not want anything from her. And then he blocked him. This all happened last year. Meanwhile, life went on. He changed jobs, he is still in academy, and now he is way more happy and relaxed. My job is well paid and interesting, and I can keep some other projects on the side. We got married this summer, and our wedding was perfect for us. Lively, bombastic, lots of food and alcohol, and our friends and family together. It was expensive, but we did not give a damn. This month, my husband is on a conference trip in another continent, so I am home alone. When I arrived home in the evening, there was a package addressed to him in the mailbox, with a stamp from a place where I know she lived, and a sender we don't know. I thought for a moment, oh my, this may be her, but then I thought that it would be pretty crazy of her to send it now. That night, I was Skyping with my husband, and made a comment about the parcel. I mentioned the name of the sender, and he did not know the name. So I proposed that I open it with him on camera. And well, turns out I was right on the money. It contained several postcards, wishing him happy birthdays and Merry Christmases, all unsigned. Also little notes such as dance in the rain, look at the clouds, walk barefoot, that kind of platitudes. And it had a book, a young adult romance book. I remember saying aloud, oh for fuck's sake, when I saw it. Meanwhile, my husband had a face like he had seen a cockroach in his sandwich. The title of the novel is Stargirl. It is about a girl who arrives at a high school and she is very quirky and magical and she dances in the rain and plays the ukulele and she is very misunderstood by the normies. The narrator dates her, but realizes that he cannot be with her because deep down is afraid of not fitting in, so he dumps her and then regrets it forever. It is not a super bad book. I like the prose, but, despite the intentions of the author, the heroine is too much of a special snowflake, and her behavior often delves into creepy territory. The book itself had a sad face in the dedication page and a small note saying read the sequel, you will understand. It was crammed with notes in small script, and sometimes the letters had been traced several times over. All of the notes were very idealized descriptions of the heroine, about how magical and beautiful she was, about the things she did, etc. Some of the notes were also about the main character agonizing about staying with her or leaving her to fit in, or descriptions about how they made out, yuck. There were also drawings of the heroine, who looked like an idealized version of Sarah. I am not gonna lie, I laughed my ass off at this fucking manic pixie dream wannabe. My husband was less amused and more creeped out. He said that she was psycho and that he did not want that shit at home. I kinda forgot about the book for the following days, because last week was my week from hell and I had to work 70 hours, I normally work 30. Because apart from my job, I took a 2-week project working in-house for a company, and I organized an art exhibition on the weekend. Also, I got pretty bad health news from a close friend, think incurable and degenerative. So the topic of Sarah was out of my mind. Yesterday I finally had time to think about it and I got angry at that asshole. They have not met in 3 years. Who the fuck does this dweeb think she is, etc. etc. I considered unblocking her briefly to tell her to stay the fuck away from us, but discarded the idea. Then I considered finding out her address and sending her a copy of Holes, by Louis Sachar, and 20 minimalist pepes printed between the pages, with a note, this is a riddle. If you solve it, I will leave my wife for you, love fiancé. Then I realized I would rather ignore her, so I threw the notes in the recycling bin and I put the book in a free box so somebody could take it home. That is all. No threats, no pictures, no positive pregnancy tests. It was anticlimactic, but honestly it was a welcome distraction in a heavy week. I don't like that she has our current address, but I do not think she will be sending more stuff. If she does, we will tell her to piss up a rope. The funny thing is that I don't hate her. She is an asshole, but this is just too sad to hate. To mock okay, but not to hate. TLDR, got the package more than a year after, when fiancé was not at home. I opened it with him on camera. It was pretty weird shit but ultimately harmless. Ignored and moved on. Thank you guys for the advice you gave in the previous post. Relevant comments. Comment. God, I read Stargirl when I was like 14. I associated with her for all of a week before realizing that she was definitely a try-hard manic pixie dream girl whose sole purpose in life was being more unique than anybody. OOP. I know, right? The cringe is real. I told my friends and they all died laughing. They decided to name the whole affair the unboxing. I don't think they will ever forgive me for not recording myself while opening the parcel. What makes me wonder is that it's been so long. Already. Like, almost 3 years. Come on girl, get over it. Get a life. Move to Philly. Buy a loft. Start a noise band. Get 6 or 7 roommates. Eat hummus with them. Book some gigs. Paint. Smoke cloves. Listen to Animal Collective. Start some type of salsa company. Stay the hell away from married people who do not want anything to do with you, Mackay. Am I the asshole for banning in-laws from seeing our daughter after they gave her an unauthorized medication, despite our clear objections? Original post. I know how the title sounds, but please bear with me. Throw away for obvious reasons. I, 24M and my wife, 24, recently had our daughter in July. She is the best thing to ever happen to my wife and we couldn't be more thrilled to have our little bundle of joy. She recently got sick while staying with her grandparents, my in-laws, while my wife and I took a trip for work. For context, my in-laws are really big into LifeWave X39. It's a patch that supposedly helps regrow stem cells by reflecting light rays back into your body, allowing your body to produce more stem cells to fight off diseases and sickness. If you ask me, it sounds like snake oil and my wife agrees, calling it a pyramid scheme. The only way to get said patches is by spending well over $1,000, and then you're tasked with selling the patches yourself. It's essentially some multi-level marketing product, where the more patches you sell, the more money you make. Falling right in line with my wife's comparison to a pyramid scheme, but MLMs are somehow legal. Now, I've tried doing research on X39, and the only comments I've seen praise said product are brand new accounts never used before or after, or their entire profile is dedicated to shilling out for LifeWave X39. In my own research, they appear to just be overpriced stickers. They contain no medication, no special UV rays or anything of the sort. They're literally just an overpriced sticker with an air bubble. But my wife and I have made it very clear that we wanted no part in X39, nor did we want our daughter to have it. Even if it's fake, we wanted no part in it, and on the off chance it did something, I didn't want our daughter to be used as their lab rat or guinea pig. Now, before we left our daughter with my in-laws, we provided them with some infant medication, just in case she got sick. Can never be too safe, you know? Well, we returned home from the work trip early because our daughter wasn't getting any better, so we picked her up and went home. We were going to give her a bath, and in the process of taking her jacket off, we found an X39 patch on her arm. Upon finding it, we immediately called her parents and demanded to know why she had a patch on her. Her parents tried saying that, it's safe for the baby, we even ordered the ones for ages 7 and younger. And that, it's practically medication. Their words. Which still didn't answer our question. So my wife checked the go bag, and the Motrin we gave them was, while it was used, not used very much at all. Her parents tried claiming that someone else in their group, or whatever, gave it to their son and they got better in a week. Point is, we didn't buy it nor did we care. We've made it abundantly clear that we wanted nothing to do with X39 and we didn't want our daughter to be a part of it. They failed to listen. My wife was on the phone with them for over an hour, and while I don't know the exact length the conversation went to, I know it at least ended with her screaming, "Going to see my fucking daughter again, and if you attempt to come to my house we will call the police," before hanging up. That was 3 days ago now, and we've had several missed calls from family members, her parents, her siblings, and even family friends, all saying that we overreacted, and they were just trying to help. Maybe we overreacted, but we wanted nothing to do with that, and despite making it clear, they went against our wishes and did it anyway. And instead of giving my daughter actual medication, they try to give her some placebo patch. Her parents tried claiming that we're stopping them from seeing their only grandchild over something so small. But we did want to hear it. AITA? AITA has no consensus bot, OOP was NTA relevant comments. Linda Pandrix, I kinda think YTAH for leaving your sick baby to go out of town. OP, we didn't leave a sick baby to go out of town. We left her with her grandparents while she was fine. We only packed Motrin because, as I stated in my post, you can never be too careful. She got sick while we were out of town, not before. Mediocre key 4992. You say that like it's snake oil, like it's just as bad as the X39. Was it Advil and cough syrup? Or just a generic bottle that you wrote infant medication on? You expect us to believe that you gave them medication just in case she got sick and then she immediately got sick? Come on, this sounds like total BS. OP, her grandparents don't exactly have children medication laying around. We packed her Motrin, which I quite literally stated later in the post had you read it, not some generic bottle, or snake oil, and just as bad, nor do they have the ability to really go anywhere. They live a good 30-40 minutes outside of any nearby town. The drive to and from her parents is a grand whole hour drive from where we live. And my wife and I quite literally work with sick people all the time. No, I'm not a doctor nor do we have medical expertise. So my wife and I contracting something is usually pretty high, so we pack Motrin or whatever the store brand is that we'll buy, every time we left her with her grandparents for more than a day. Update 1. About a month ago I made this post ranting about my in-laws' weird obsession with a, for lack of a better term, cult regarding stem cell regeneration through patches, which, clearly isn't a real thing. There's been some development on that end, and while I'm confident things will likely end here, I wanted to give a quick update for those who may have been curious. I'm writing this on the toilet at work, so don't mind the rushiness of it all. After my wife essentially cut ties with them and we all received a million phone calls and text messages from family and friends, things quieted down for about a week or two. We started having my sister watch our daughter instead, when we had to work. We haven't had another out-of-trip town since the initial post, however. Through those couple of weeks we never really heard anything beyond a couple of supposed shit-talking posts on Facebook bitching about us, but I can't seem to find the posts. We thought things were, probably, hopefully, going to end there, but boy were we wrong. And this is quite the jump from the last post. My wife and I were visited by CPS about 2 weeks ago or so, after they received concerning calls about supposed child abuse and negligence within the household. Of course, nothing like that happened and the caseworker was very quick to see that. We had asked who reported her, and while she couldn't say, we had a suspicion it was from her parents. We were completely helpful and cooperative with the caseworker, and after she left that night, my wife called her mom up and asked her if she's the one who called CPS. Surprisingly, her mother took full accountability, but not so surprisingly, tried to spin it around in her favor, claiming that she did it for our own good, because our daughter was sick and she wasn't getting any better, when she was there, so clearly we were doing something awful as parents. Kids get sick, it happens. But they're also extreme anti-vaxxers. Not just COVID, I mean everything. From even something as trivial as the flu shot. Yet, they're willing to shill out thousands of dollars for some supposed stem cell regeneration sticker. The fucking hypocrisy and irony in their bullshit is unmatched. My wife didn't really know how to react to that, so she basically told her mom to go fuck herself, and she wants nothing to do with her again. I know I saw a few comments on the last post saying maybe we shouldn't have cut them out entirely, but now I'm starting to question why we didn't cut them out years ago, before our daughter was even a thought in our heads. About a week after the first audit, my mother-in-law showed up to our house on my day off while my wife was at work, and essentially demanded to see our daughter, forcing her way into our home by pushing past my arm. When I told her to get the hell out of my house, she had no business matching in here like that. She essentially told me that I'm unfit to be a parent because I'm depriving my daughter of help she desperately needed, because she's clearly a very sick child. My daughter is perfectly healthy right now, and in fact, has had no stuffy nose and no high temperature, nothing. I told my MIL straight up that she was batshit insane. I went off on her about how she lied to us, went against our wishes, had the audacity to call and lie to CPS, and then show up at our house unannounced, uninvited, and march herself inside, as well as everything about her X39 LifeWave bullshit. We argued there for a while, before I finally got so fed up. I told her to leave my house before I called the police. She stormed out of the house and in true Karen fashion, said this isn't over. Before slamming my door. I immediately called my wife, who was of course, irate. The following morning, we filed a restraining order at the courthouse from her mom and dad, because they're clearly not in their right mindset. The caseworker had to audit us a few more times as per their guidelines over the past 2 weeks, and yesterday was her last day, where she informed us that we're doing good and she's sorry for the trouble they caused. We kept her up to speed on the LifeWave shit, the showing up unannounced and the restraining order, and though she couldn't really take a side, she seemed apologetic. But my wife and I are pretty livid. We started looking at houses in another state to get as far away from her in-laws as possible. Our company has offices out there, so it's entirely possible we could just be transferred. So we're crossing our fingers that all goes well, the restraining order gets filed soon enough, and we'll get a place clear across the country, so that this will hopefully be my last update. Update 2. Hello everyone, thank you for being so supportive. I've read some of the comments, though not all, far too many. And I know some of you have asked for updates, and so I wanted to give everyone an update for those still interested. Things aren't going to be as juicy in this post as the last two, but some new things have happened, so I'll just jump right in. After my in-laws called CPS on us for no discernible reasons other than we forbid them from seeing our daughter, things mostly quieted down. Some of you suggested that we should do more than just get a restraining order, so we bought some security cameras and had them installed all around our property, and our neighbors, who are pretty good friends of ours, was in the loop for the most part, and anytime we had to go somewhere, not only did we have video cameras recording every time someone entered our driveway displayed directly on our phones, our neighbors kept us updated too. She stopped coming around for the first few months since she called CPS on us, but just the month before last, as we were preparing to move, my in-laws somehow got word we planned on moving states and attempted to block our driveway as her dad tried blocking the front door. Not sure what their plan was there, because we have a back door and an extra side door leading from the kitchen, but I digress. Her mom blocked the driveway, stopping our U-Haul or car from leaving the property, and wouldn't budge, even after we told them we would call the police. They told us they'd move if we told them where we were moving to, But my wife told them that wasn't happening and they had 10 minutes to leave or we'd be calling the police. My neighbor came over during the commotion, but my in-laws still wouldn't budge. My daughter is crying during all of this as my wife is trying to console her, as my neighbor and I are attempting to remove my father-in-law from the doorway, but he wouldn't move. Eventually my wife called the police, and I'm guessing another neighbor called them as well because they responded within mere minutes. My in-laws kept screaming that we were taking their rightful grandchild away, and that we'd all be damned to burn in hell for this, but honestly that just made me laugh. The police kept asking them to leave, but they wouldn't. Eventually they were arrested for refusing to leave and the police were nice enough to call a tow truck for us to be able to back out of the driveway. Lo and behold, as the police were handcuffing my in-laws, they both had on those X39 patches and even the police questioned them about it. But whatever, what's done is done. We were able to finally leave and on to new adventures. We've been settled in at our new house for the better part of over a month, and we're enjoying it greatly. No word from her in-laws, and they have no idea where we are. We have them blocked but will eventually get messages from unknown numbers or Facebook accounts asking where we moved, but there's no way they're that foolish to believe we'll actually tell them. Luckily, neither my last state or this one have any grandparents' rights, so we're in the clear there. Thank you everyone. Hopefully this is my last update. Relevant comments, Quicksand32. Seriously look into a P.O. box and have all mail routed there. OOP. Hey there. We actually did get our mail routed to a P.O. box. Sofla Sun. Why were they not arrested for violating a restraining order? OOP. We informed the police they had a restraining order. I just don't think they cared. They were more concerned with getting them off our property as opposed to them violating the restraining order. I think one of their final charges after being arrested was violation of a restraining order though, the police just didn't seem to care at the time, which is unfortunate, to say the least. Final update. Well, this is certainly to be the last update, when I honestly thought the last post I made would be the final one. About 4.5 months ago, give or take me, my wife and daughter moved across the country to avoid her parents, and I'm happy to say that, beyond some annoying phone calls from different numbers, and messages on Facebook, things were quiet. About 3 months ago or so I posted what I thought would be the final update, but I know some of you asked to be kept in the loop, so here we are. Over a month ago or so, we were informed that her in-laws were shot and killed by the new homeowners of the previous house we lived in. In their infinite wisdom, they for some reason thought we never actually moved after not getting any responses and broke into our previous house to kidnap our daughter. The new homeowners were awake and after my in-laws broke into what was our daughter's room, which was now the homeowner's child's room, the homeowners shot my father-in-law, killing him almost instantly. My mother-in-law tried to climb out of the window but was shot in the back, and succumbed to it while in the hospital. I don't have all the details, these are just what I was able to piece together from the police report and my old neighbor. My wife is in shock and isn't quite sure how to handle the news, but she at least tells me that she at least knows now that our daughter will finally be safe. After we got the news we just sat on the couch and I comforted her all night, and we both eventually fell asleep on the couch. She says she finally feels safe and is glad our kid will be, but she still never wanted them to die, and I get that. I don't wish death upon anybody. My wife and I are glad the current homeowners and their kid is okay and she's shaken, worried that if we hadn't moved, they'd have succeeded and kidnapped our daughter. I told her there's no use worrying about the what-ifs, because what's done is done and at least she's safe. My wife agreed, but I can still tell she's trying to wrap her head around the entire ordeal. We had started seeing a therapist about the entire experience and the therapist suggested taking a vacation, so I just recently purchased some tickets to Hawaii and had just surprised my wife with them this weekend, as a nice little getaway vacation, as my wife always wanted to go to Hawaii. My wife was ecstatic when I showed her the tickets and she's excited to go and I'm hoping this vacation is just what she needs for hopefully not stress as much. I feel awful knowing that my wife isn't sure where to go or what to do and I'm being her rock as best as I can. And I'm thankful that we have that therapist for her to work through some of her stress and get help. My wife and I are doing okay if anyone is curious, she's just trying to wrap her head around what happened. This will be my final update everyone, and I'm hoping everyone here has a great day. We leave for Hawaii in a week, so we're both excited. My wife has been trying to keep her mind off things by focusing on the trip, as she says it's helping. I'll catch everyone later, but don't expect any updates. Goodbye everyone, thank you all for your support. My boyfriend admitted he wishes I was still fat after I lost weight, and I'm so king pissed to process his hurtful confession. Original post, I, 21F, have been dating my boyfriend Adam, 28M, for almost 3 years now. I feel like some context is needed to accurately describe our situation. When I was 15, my older brother passed away in a car accident and it threw me into a depression where I became very overweight. He was my best friend and meant the world to me. Losing him led me into the worst years of my life. A few months after I turned 18, I met Adam. He was one of my friend's older brother and we hit it off. He's smart, charismatic, and I loved his sense of humor. Adam is also heavy, but he was so comfortable in his skin, it really made me admire his confidence. I couldn't stand to even look at myself in a mirror, so this last year I buckled down and lost a very significant amount of weight, and now I'm even below my high school weight. I've never been this fit in my life and I feel so good about myself. My 21st birthday was this last Saturday and Adam and my friends had planned a party for me. Unfortunately, Adam had a family emergency, so he wasn't going to be around for my birthday. I was completely okay with this and reassured him that it was fine when I drove him to the airport. My friend Andrea recommended that we should instead go to a strip club, and I thought that was an amazing idea. I'd like to reiterate that it would have been a woman's only strip club. The next time I talked to Adam, I told him about the change in plans and he was very adamant that he didn't want me to go. He said it wasn't that he didn't trust me, it's that he didn't trust my friends. I ended up dropping the subject to not cause him further stress, and we ended up just having the party they originally planned. Adam arrived today and I felt something was off. Something has been off since I lost weight. I kept badgering him until he finally opened up. We talked and he eventually told me that we don't even look like we belong together anymore. He brought up an instance where we were at the grocery store a week ago and a guy was asking me questions about watermelons in the fruit section. It was a casual conversation, but he referred to my boyfriend as my brother and I quickly corrected him. The guy apologized, said we looked similar and walked off. At the time my boyfriend laughed it off and didn't bring it up again. He then said something that pissed me off so bad. He said, "Sometimes I wish you were still big so no one else would want you." I lost all sympathy and quickly corrected him. I told him even when I was a big girl, guys hit on me all the time, and just like I always do, I told them I have a boyfriend that I love. He looked dumbfounded when I said this. Elle told him how fucked it was that he wishes that I was back at the size where I was depressed and hated myself. He told me he misspoke and I'm blowing things out of proportion. We argued more and he ended up leaving to his brothers to give me space. I've been sitting here just pissing myself off about what he said. Did he really think I was that unattractive when I was bigger? If so, why did he date me? Did he think I was desperate to be with someone because I was so fat? I just need some third-party advice. Am I overreacting? Relevant comments. Commenter 1, Enor. And he was a 25-year-old seeking out an 18-year-old to date. Trust that when you're 25 you'll see how big a gap that is. He was probably dating someone that much younger than him because girls his age didn't want him and he thought you'd be easier to control. Even if this wasn't an active thought, the second you took control of your body by losing weight he was unhappy. A good partner hypes you up when you achieve something you wanted, they don't try to cut you down. This dude is not worth the time of day. OOP. Well, all I know is that his previous relationship lasted 5 years and it was a girl he dated in college. I never really considered that he had the intention to control me and I really hope that isn't the case. This is the first comment he's really made that cut me down, but now that I think about it, you are right, he hasn't really hyped me up either. Commenter 2. You are 21 and feeling good about yourself. Maybe it's time to lose about 300 pounds more of dead weight and leave the guy that snatched up an 18-year-old when he was 25 because he thought no one else wanted her. Update 1. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone for giving me their opinions and advice. It really means a lot to me. I debated if I should post again, but I need an outlet to vent. I've been laying here in the dark and I've read basically all the comments and I think an update is warranted. Basically, Adam and I are taking a break and I've been crying my eyes out for the last few hours. He came home today and we both agreed that we need to talk and get everything out in the open. He started off by apologizing for what he said, particularly the, "Sometimes I wish you were still big so no one else would want you" part. I asked if he thought I was unattractive when I was bigger and he said no, but he doesn't understand why I'm dieting and exercising the way I am. Adam said I shouldn't have to cook 2 different meals and should just eat what he does, and me going to the gym 6 times a week is obsessive. I told him that it makes me happy, bettering myself, and he said that it has completely changed me. Adam went on to talk about how all I really care about is my looks now. He said he liked my hair how it used to be before I went to a stylist. He liked how I used to paint my own nails instead of getting them done, and how I used to never wear makeup instead of how I have to have some on now before I go out. Adam then said he knows I lost weight because I was unhappy with myself, but he was always happy with me and he doesn't understand why I have to keep trying to make myself hotter when I was already hot. We talked back and forth, but it felt like I was just doing everything wrong. Adam said that I don't ever want to do things he enjoys anymore, Like play video games with him or binge watch movies, and he feels like I'm a different person. I have pushed him to go on walks with me or go to the gym in the past, but he's told me no, so I figured we just had our different hobbies. I feel bad because I see from his point of view I have changed and I may not be the girl he fell in love with. I told him I love him and he said he loves me too, but we need to separate for a bit and figure out if we're best for each other. I didn't argue, I just said okay and let him pack his things and leave. He's letting me stay in the apartment until I can move my stuff out. I've been crying my eyes out and everything feels like a blur. I don't know where to go from here and I feel like I ruined my first real relationship. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. You didn't really mention in your original post that you had started focusing so much on how you look besides your fitness regime. Or that you had stopped enjoying the same activities, for example gaming and movie binging. This isn't a criticism of you, but it does indeed sound like you have changed significantly from the person he knew, so perhaps separation was not a terrible idea. You are very young, I know it sounds cliché, but you will find someone else who you're more compatible with in future. It hurts right now, but you just need time. Be strong. OOP, well at the time it felt like me changing my appearance wasn't so much of an issue since he never complained about it, but I see now I was wrong. Now replaying everything in my mind, his reactions have always been indifferent whenever I would show off my hair or nails to him. I still would play video games and watch movies with him, but it wasn't as often as it used to be. For a time that's all we did every day. I do appreciate your input and I know it may sound dumb, but I'm holding out hope we work things out. Commenter 2, taking a break? What the hell does that mean? Are you single or taken? Can you have a hookup or not see other people? Look, good luck, but you're going to get hit on and realize you're missing out on a lot of fun. I'm surprised he asked for the break. Seems he would be extremely worried that you will meet someone new and leave him. OP. From what he said, he wants us to take some time apart and connect again. I was also confused by what this meant for us, but he doesn't want us to see other people for now. I know most people are suggesting we split up, but I get this sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach when I consider it. Update 2. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone who reached out. Your support has meant so much to me. To get to the point, I broke up with Adam a few days ago and I'm still trying to process everything that happened. Things have been hectic and I'm settling into my new situation. Last week I had decided it was time for me to move out of the apartment. Adam made it clear that our relationship wasn't going to improve unless we took time apart, and as bad as I felt, I knew he wasn't going to come back until I was gone. I knew I wasn't going to be able to move all my stuff by myself, so I decided to ask a coworker if they could help me. The only heavy things I had were basically my bed frame and dresser, the rest were just boxes and suitcases full of clothes. Last Monday I asked my coworker David if he could help me move my stuff into my parents' garage. I know he used to work for a moving company and he has a truck, so I was hoping he could do it for $100 LOL. I showed him pictures of my stuff and he said he would just have to take apart my bed frame, but yeah, he could do it on Thursday, which was his next day off. I didn't have that day off, but I had PTO to cover it, so it was fine. Thursday comes and David shows up to the apartment. I show him where everything is and he goes out to his truck to get his tools. It wasn't more than like a minute or two when I hear Adam's voice yelling, "Did you fuck my girlfriend?" I immediately go into the living room and see David with his hands up looking very confused and Adam asking him, "Did you fuck her?" I swear this was the most humiliating thing that has ever happened to me. I could feel my face get red. I go over and grab Adam's hand and pull him into the bedroom. He's freaking out, asking if David is the guy I've been seeing. I told him he's crazy and that David is my coworker and he's only here to help me move my stuff. He said he didn't believe me and he wanted to see my phone. I told him I didn't have anything to hide, but if he goes through my phone, that's a deal breaker for me. He waited a second before taking my phone and going through it. I stood there watching him open up all my socials, all my texts, and even scroll through all of my pictures. It was almost like a light switch went off in my head and whatever love I had for him was gone. I felt disgusted. I told him that I was breaking up with him and he looked shocked. He started apologizing and said he was coming over to tell me not to move out and that he wants me to stay with him, but he just freaked out when he saw me here with a guy. That's when I realized that Adam knows I work on Thursdays, so why was he even over here? I asked him this, but he just kept apologizing and begging me to not leave him. Something in me finally snapped and I screamed at him to get out. I've been mad before, but I've never screamed at anyone like that. He just stared at me, turned around and left. I immediately picked up my phone and blocked him. I found David in his truck and apologized to him and asked if he could still help me, and he said of course. After we had everything put up in my parents' garage, I went to pay him and he said instead I could buy him lunch. I took him up on the offer because it would be cheaper than $100 and I suggested Applebee's LOL. It was nice getting to vent to someone who saw how crazy Adam was firsthand. After we were done, he went and paid and said I can get him next time. The breakup didn't really hit me until the next day, and even though I cried my eyes out, it felt good, like I got this huge weight off my chest. To be honest, it's almost scary how okay I'm feeling about it all. Maybe it hasn't fully sunk in yet, and I'll miss him when it does, but for now I feel fine. Thank you to everyone who's given their advice and helped me. I'm pretty sure this is my last update unless something crazy happens. Top comments. Commenter 1, woo. The fact that he was there when he knew you were meant to be working is a huge red flag. Is he tracking you because WTF? Stay safe. Commenter 2, you need to check your stuff for air tags. It's super sus that he knew to be at the house when you were.